I had to censor myself after all the technical difficulties that we had this week.
Are we gonna pretend we didn't have technical difficulty? Just.
Oh no, I'm going to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Twitch is getting an earful. Hey everybody, welcome to Spine Chill episode 53. We're so glad to be back with you here once again. I'm John Wolf. Here's Gary the Hot Cross Bun.
Hello.
Doug Running Man.
Hello.
And Sino Beats. Who's over
Hello.
there. We originally met up for this episode about an hour ago, but it took forever to set up because normally for the video version we use a feature on Twitch called Stream Together to screen record and get all our webcams together, but they completely broke it in a recent update, and now it just doesn't work. So great job, Twitch, you idiots.
And John has been calmly trying to resolve it.
So collected has he been. Yes.
It has literally taken me over an hour to fix what Twitch Stream Together provided us for the past, I don't know, 30, 40 episodes. And yeah, I'm not happy with them.
Yeah.
Because they had this new like knocking shit, or I don't know what the fuck they're
The
thinking.
knocking thing's so fucking annoying.
Oh no.
Everybody gets like mad at Twitch about every single little tiny thing, but this is something that they should actually be mad about. They completely like nuked a feature that they've been working on for forever, and I just don't see anybody talking about it.
It's because no one really used it, and now it was a functional feature that no one used, and now it's a broken feature that no one uses.
Yeah, because it's really useful, or it was really useful for like if you wanted to collab with someone else and have their camera on the screen, which before was always a pain in the ass. So I was like, oh, what a great, like Twitch is finally developing a product that has like a very good like stream use, very clear stream use, rather than like, remember when Twitch uploaded the ability to do short form video to mobile platforms?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Who fucking uses that? Who cares? Oh, here's what I'm doing today as a streamer. Oh, I'm streaming again in my pajamas. Okay, great. You know, like nobody uses that shit. But this is something that actually makes streaming better, and they've just fucking ruined it.
They fucking nuked it.
So that you can go, knock knock. Show me your camera. Oh, I actually knocked my own camera there. Got to it. Philistines.
Yeah.
I keep accidentally almost knocking on people's streams as well.
I use it to troll people. Like I was playing with my friend Steve, and I just kept on knocking on his stream over and over. We were streaming together. I just been like doing it to be an asshole because like when you're playing DVD, if you knock, it'll pull him out of the game and bring up the knock window thing.
That's crazy.
It's just
that's
I was messing
crazy.
with him. I was messing with him in Chase. It was pretty funny.
Anytime I go into anyone's stream now, it's like, do you want to knock? Do you want to collab?
Yeah.
You want to collab? No, press the button, collab.
Was it MySpace or Facebook that had like you could poke people?
Poking. Was it
It's
poking?
that.
Facebook. It was Facebook.
Yeah, it's Facebook.
It's
It's
poking.
that, isn't it? It's that on Twitch.
It's more annoying than that, though.
I miss poking.
Do you remember?
Knock, knock.
So we're
Knock, knock.
Europeans. Did you use MSN when you were growing up?
Yes.
Do you remember when
absolutely.
MSN added the nudges?
Yes, I was about to say you bring up
And it would
nudges
make
on
your
your
screen. It made your screen like go around, and it was like poking, but even more like aggressive.
quickest way to get kicked off of my MSN.
It was like, why has Twitch not got anybody at like the product development stage that sits there and thinks to themselves, don't you think this whole like knock feature is a little 2006 MSN? It's a little intrusive, invasive, you know?
It's because they weren't alive then, bro. All the young people now, they're like, we don't know that this sucks because we weren't there to find out that it sucked in the 90s and the early 2000s, right?
You could knock on your friend's stream. Knock, knock. Can I come in?
Knock, knock.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
Yeah, what if we had
Isn't
the
it
poke
cutesy and
feature?
quirky
They
and
don't
fun?
know. Yeah, no.
It is like, I want to intrude on your stream. Knock, knock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like invasive
awkward.
language. You know, it's
Can
like
you-
knock, knock. It's your mom at the door. She says
It's
the
crazy.
pizza rolls are ready. You know, like
Because when it first came out, I remember seeing posts on X where they were like, oh, you have to set your favorites, to set it to favorites only,
Yeah.
and then put no one in your favorites. So it's like, if you need a guide on how to not get fucked over by it the day it comes out, like maybe it's should go back in the oven for a couple hours, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it seems a little crazy. But I didn't do anything. I feel like the first time somebody knocks, I'll just permaban them, delete them off of everything, delete them off of every social. Just like, nope, you're gone. Don't knock on my stream.
Doug,
That's too
can
bad.
you make a guide?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'll do a video. I'll do a video guide. Yeah,
How to deal with knocking.
yeah. If somebody knocks on your channel, they
Slash
are
ban.
dead to you. They're dead to you for now.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I'm not planning on knocking on
Pulling.
anyone's stream. No one's.
Only
No.
for fun.
So welcome to season 53, everybody.
Oh yeah, we're pissed, right?
Yeah. Very relatable conversation we just had that most
Yeah.
people
Everyone's like,
won't
ah,
use.
I hate knocking too.
Yeah, I hate that thing that I'll never use.
Yeah. And I hope at least some people are commenting going, yeah, I fucking hated nudges on MSN.
Yeah.
I like Facebook posts, man. I remember I used to poke people.
Yeah, I did too. I would poke like all the girls I was friends with. Never the dudes. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, can I have some attention, please?
Poke the dude's face.
Kind of weird, bro.
Kind of cringe.
Kind of cringe.
So what are we
just
doing?
Talk to me like a man. Just DM me like a bro.
I just message them and say, "What's up, bro?
What's up, bro?"
Dude, that's
my
problem.
The girls are like, "Tee
Jim? Question mark.
Jim.
I thought you were messaging someone called Jim. Is this Jim?
Jim steaks afterwards. Anyway, right, yeah. Welcome to episode 53, season 53, rather. Today we will be finishing out our console tier list, which we're very excited for. We got to talk about Book Club, which is the game Fez this week, and we're gonna find out what Doug is choosing for his Book Club game of the week, or at this point, game of the month. We're uploading so irregularly, but yeah, I think we had a couple other topics to talk about. Gary, you recently played Chrono Trigger, my favorite game of all time.
Yes, I really enjoyed Chrono Trigger. I've got to say, I was pleasantly surprised by it. I kind of sank 2 days into it. I basically took a weekend and just played it non-stop. Yeah, and I loved it. I was really impressed. I'm shocked that I haven't played any games that I feel like would take more inspiration from Chrono Trigger, because I thought the design was pretty genius in a lot of it.
Yeah.
I really liked the combo attacks, like the duo and triple attacks. I forget what they're called exactly.
Double and triple attacks, yeah, where you can have 2 characters combined for an attack, or even 3.
Yeah,
and they
I
have
liked doing like
combos.
Fire spinny sword and stuff. I thought it was awesome. I really liked some of the puzzles that I thought were really clever, like going back between.
Oh yeah.
Like the times to like find
periods.
I think the one that I felt stupid afterwards. It took me ages to figure it out. But getting the carpenter to repair the castle.
Oh yeah.
It took me so long to really like click what I was doing with that. But once I nailed it, I was like, I really enjoyed it. And moving that stone, the sunstone, that was awesome. I felt really clever. I felt it mostly made me feel really clever playing that game. And I think the music was cool. The only bit that I didn't like was when the bike race.
Yeah. I love the bike race, man.
I liked it the first time. I liked it the first time, but when I was like a little bit like trying to find what I do next, I kept going back and forth. I was like, I don't want to race you again, dude. I keep beating you.
The bike race is a bit of a weak point for me in the game. Yeah. Personally.
But outside of that, I loved it. Oh, I also liked the chests, the magic chests.
Yes,
I did screw a few of them up because I opened them straight away. But then I realized that if I didn't open them straight away, I got better stuff, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I like that little sound effect that plays when you find them. It's like yeah. I think overall, I think the soundtrack is amazing, though.
Oh yeah, I think the bike chase. Thinking about it, I think that's one of the songs I was like, I think that's one of the Nobuo Uematsu songs, and he was involved in that.
It is,
one.
Yeah, that
like,
one.
That's like the song. I was like, this sounds very Nobuo. The soundtrack slaps. I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best games of all time for a reason.
Yeah, and like, I was so happy that none of it was spoiled for me. Like when I was playing it, the beats, I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was a really cool storyline. I mean, I could spoil it, right? I know, like anyone listening.
I mean, I'm okay with it, but
spoiler warning if you haven't played.
Spoiler warning for a 40-year-old game.
Spoiler warning. I'm just gonna say one thing now. I'll keep my hand up whilst I do it. The bit where Chrono dies, I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, the main character of the game dies. Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's a good moment because I think that was something that didn't really happen much at that point in time. At least I can't think of any examples readily in like the Super Nintendo era and before, where like the main character dies for a significant part of the game.
Yeah,
and then going back and having to resolve it and changing my party and stuff, I thought it was really cool. I also liked that there was like incentive to change your party members and stuff. I thought it was a really well crafted game. Like, and there's different endings. Like, I got a couple of them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I want to go back and get more of them at some point. Yeah. I generally
there's a lot.
Very impressed by the game.
Well, who was your squad of 3?
So I took Chrono. I am bad with the names. Was it Lena? Was that her name? The
Marl?
Marley? Sorry, yeah, that her, and then the princess.
Oh wait, Marley's the princess, or Marl. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I took science girl and
Luca.
Princess Luca. That was it.
Okay, yeah. Did you unlock Delta Force?
Yes, that move was insane.
That move is awesome.
I just started destroying stuff towards the end.
Yeah. It's a good game. Did you notice that a lot of the character sprites and animations are very similar to Stardew Valley?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's anything. Yeah, I could tell that that's something that was taken.
Like when the characters are surprised, it's like the exact animation that they have in Stardew.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty cool though.
I don't know if the developers ever said that, but I remember the first time when I played Stardew Valley, I was like, these look like a bit kind of Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
I loved the cutscenes as well, and
oh yes,
because Akira Toriyama's art style is just so iconic.
Yes.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah, that's actually something that they added for I think the PS1 port of the game, because obviously the Super Nintendo couldn't handle cutscenes like that.
You can't handle it.
Can't handle it. But
yeah,
there's so many
I played
ports
the
over
Steam
the years.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is a port of the 3DS version, which is considered I think the best version of the game. I mean, best is subjective, but the most complete version of the game.
You get everything in it. It's slightly prettier.
Yeah, yeah. I've played it on PC as well, and I had a great time with it. All right, cool. Well, I'm glad to hear about all that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Why were you playing it again, Gary?
Because it's on my list.
Oh, it's just.
Yeah, it's just I'm working through lists. My next game's gonna be Final Fantasy 6. That's the next game that I'm gonna play. That's
you've never played 6?
Yeah, I've never played 6, and it's 6 and then 10-2. I think are the next Final Fantasies that I really want. Because I never got a chance to play them.
I think if you played 10-2 as a teenage boy, you would probably be too embarrassed to like it. But I think as a grown ass adult, you have the self confidence to enjoy it, Gary. If you want to.
I'm gonna lap it up. I'm gonna be sitting there going they should sing this at Eurovision next year.
Yeah, yeah, it has a bit of a Eurovision vibe at times, yeah.
But as a kid, I was like, I can't play this game.
Right.
There's no way. I get bullied for playing this.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Too many girls.
Yeah. But now I'm really excited to play it.
I've never played X2, actually, or X. I haven't played either of them. I haven't played any Final Fantasy after 7. But maybe someday I'll correct that mistake.
Yeah, I played 8 and X. So.
Yeah.
I never played X2.
I love 8.
Huh.
8's
Book
my
Club?
favorite.
One day? Obviously you wouldn't be able to finish it.
Play Final Fantasy.
We could do
just
one.
Play as much as you can stomach.
Yeah, do one overarching book club game that lasts 6 months. And then
oh my god.
We could also do the rotation.
I would have to finish it though.
More games.
I wouldn't be able to leave it incomplete.
You'd have to finish it?
Yeah.
It'd be weird.
Sure? I think it'd be very difficult to put down a Final Fantasy game.
Leave it incomplete.
What if you play it for 6 hours and you're just like, I just don't care?
Yeah, it's Final Fantasy. You care.
Yeah, no, even I get into Final Fantasy games, man. I don't think you're.
I don't know. John might hate it.
Have you ever played? Has anyone here ever played a Final Fantasy game, or really any RPG that you were like, oh, I don't like this?
Actually, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Yeah, 13. Final Fantasy 13 sucked.
Oh. So are you gonna take that?
Awful battle system.
Oh, there's many reasons to criticize that game. It gets good or better. 30 hours in.
Yeah,
it has
that's the argument.
Primitively long tutorial. Basically,
people that love the game go, it gets really good after 30 hours, and I think any game that gets good after 30 hours sucks.
That's what people say about Texas Chainsaw Massacre too.
It's the film's great. It just takes 4 hours to get good. No, I'm not gonna spend 4 hours watching a film so that the last hour can be good or whatever.
Yeah. What film do they say that about?
I don't know. I'm just giving an example of if you watching maybe a series, I could be the first 10 episodes
seasons. The first 3 seasons are bad, but you get to season 4 and it really lights up.
Yeah, it picks up. I'm not doing that for Final Fantasy 13. And it's a shame because I liked all the characters, the music slaps, the game looks beautiful. I love the idea that the story was coming nice to get together.
Yeah.
God, that combat system stunk.
I will say my experience with JRPGs, I generally really favor the retro ones, like SNES, PS1 era. I find that once you get to later generations, they went to I don't know if action oriented is the right word, but go ahead.
It's Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts came out, and then JRPGs all became Kingdom Hearts. Like turn-based kind of took a sideline. Everything became this live action at the same time, flying around the map, which sometimes is cool. Like I like Final Fantasy 15. I enjoy 12. I enjoy some of the other games, but like I do think everything became very Kingdom Hearts, which I don't think Kingdom Hearts is a bad game. I don't think necessarily it's always a bad thing, but
even though it's not strictly turn-based as well. Like I often remind people that Final Fantasy, for the most part, is not strictly turn-based, but the ATB system where like the bar fills up, it feels turn-based still, right?
Yeah, because it's not turn-based.
Yeah,
because like 7 has that, 8 has that, 9 has that. Like some of the biggest Final Fantasies have this like bar that fills up and then you get to go. So 10 is actually quite weird because it's actually turn-based, but it does it very quickly. Like you can go through turns really fast, so you're not sitting there like watching the animations every time. So I think actually you might like 10 actually, John, for that reason, because it deliberately has a slightly at times retro feel.
I do prefer strictly turn-based. I mean, Chrono Trigger is my favorite game, and it's not strictly turn-based. You know, it's got that.
I think you could turn it to be though. At least in the Steam version, you could change it to be turn-based.
Oh yeah, you can't. Yeah, but
I didn't.
Yeah,
I kept
it's not as good. Yeah, you have to do it with the meters, I think, to get the full experience. But
they're not doing this kind of pseudo action game thing where you press X to swing your sword kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which a lot of RPGs do now. And I just couldn't get into 15 because of that so much.
Yeah, 15's a bit. I just basically liked the storyline and the characters. I think some of the combat in 15's a little weaker, but
I just don't like the action RPG combat, like the Kingdom Hearts combat. Like it's one of the things that kind of ruined FF7 Remake for me. I had to just eventually drop it because I was just like, it does nothing for me to have the combat like this. But
I need to play it because I've seen people saying like it's the latest version, the latest part of it, whatever it's gonna be like. That's their game of the year.
It's Final Fantasy fans, they're delusional. I went off on about this the other day on stream. They're crazy. Like every Final Fantasy game comes out, they're like, game of the year again, and it's like, it's not gonna do it, dude. It's not gonna win. Sorry, it's not that good.
Square Enix is currently having a revelation because they've realized that not releasing a game on multiple platforms means that less people buy it. So they're like, oh, Final Fantasy 16 didn't sell as well as we wanted. Maybe we should port it to PC when it launches next time. I'm like, yes, duh.
Yeah.
Like Sega realized this 10 years ago when they put Yakuza on Steam and they were like, oh my god, we made more money from this than when it first came out. So now all of the Sega games just come out on PC.
It's so frustrating because like I really wanted 16, but now I'm like, I don't really care that much anymore. So if it does come to PC, will I buy it? I don't know.
Yeah, like I'm more, but when it first came out, I was like, I want to play it.
Yeah.
You know? So... But apparently from now on, they're like, yeah, we've learned that we're going to release games on multiple platforms when they come out. I'm like, well done. Got there eventually.
Yeah.
Well, it took you like a decade or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? And is that game done? Like
the second part has come out, but not the last part.
So they're about 35% through the original game now? They got another like 5 installments to go until they're done?
I think it's going to only have one more, isn't it?
I think so.
I was joking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because they're taking for fucking ever with it.
Because it's a different story, isn't it? It's not actually 7. It's like
a reimagining.
It's like a timeline difference with 7.
I
think.
So this is mild spoilers for the FF7 remakes, but my hunch, they keep having these moments where Aerith seems to know what's going on. And that certain spirits only show up when something occurs to like deviate from the timeline. So they're kind of hinting at like is there like a timeline where she can be saved or something can change? So it's not just the Final Fantasy VII story again. She seems to know things that she shouldn't really know, or she acts weirdly in situations where she should be surprised. So it's kind of giving this sort of weird. It's giving Aerith. It's giving. Like different timeline energy at the moment, I would say.
Yeah, like I know there's like a time thing going on. Like I haven't played it, so mine's a complete theory. But I just assumed it'd be really cool if Sephiroth was trying to not kill Aerith, because like the only reason that he doesn't win, like that, like Meteor doesn't destroy the planet, is because Aerith is there with the life strain. So if she doesn't die, she doesn't get part of that life strain. Yeah, that was my thought.
Final Fantasy VII spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. What is it, 97?
Yeah, I think there's a statute of limitations for spoilers. I think you're fine. You're in the clear. You've been in the clear for 20 years.
There's a period of time in like the 2010s where people were so obnoxious about like, oh, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. It's like sometimes you have to take steps to curate your experience on the internet.
Yeah,
versus you can block out the words Final Fantasy VII on websites and stuff. Like,
also, it reminds me.
Obnoxious.
I still have the word Pokemon muted on Twitter. I don't think I'll ever take it off.
when I was teaching game design at uni, I remember one student getting really pissy with me because I was doing a lecture about UX, one of my favorite topics, and I was talking about The Last of Us because that has really good ways of navigating the player around and making sure you don't feel lost. You always kind of know what you're doing, what your objectives are and stuff. Yeah. And they got upset because I was talking about the story and how it guides you through that as well and uses the storyline to get you to places. And they were like, spoilers? I was like, the game's been out for like 10 years, dude. And you're doing a game design course. We're going to talk about one of the biggest games
considered, one of the best games of all time. Yeah,
so, it's getting oppressive. You know what I mean? It's like, it would be nice to have a discussion about things in popular culture without somebody being like, rah, you know.
And if you can buy it secondhand in a store for cheap,
I don't enjoy spoiling people, but it's a game design course.
But at the same time, you can't hold conversation hostage and also insist on being present. You know, it's like, well, you can't talk about that because I haven't experienced it.
Yeah, it's like a kind of selfishness that starts to occur when you go to, like, obviously if one of you guys are like, oh, I'm gonna go play, it's like if Gary's like, I'm gonna play Final Fantasy VI for the first time and I just spoiled it for him, I'd be a dick.
It's different. Yeah.
For a game design course, if somebody, you're the teacher and they said that to you, I'd be like, F.
Right. You fail.
You failed.
But speaking of rude and arrogance and trying to control the conversation and stuff, Phil Fish, should we talk about Fez?
I was whose name in the Rolodex?
Book club already. Okay, yeah,
I thought you were going to say my name for a minute there.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about, so yeah, we can talk about Fez. What do you guys think? Y'all ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
we can talk about Fez. What do you think? Was it all right? All right, great. Okay. So I'll intro what Fez was one more time because I picked it. So Fez is a 2D platformer that came out in 2012, 2013?
2012, yeah.
Part of a kind of wave of indie games becoming big budget, big sellers when the games industry was in this kind of rut where it felt like if you weren't making Gears of War, then you were going to lose money. So a lot of games companies didn't really know what to do, and we were beginning to get the kind of rise of internet as the distribution method for most video games. So for today's podcast, we also prepared by watching Indie Game the Movie. Is that the exact title of it? Which is about a couple of indie games and them going on the Xbox Live marketplace, which was very popular back then, and then them beginning to sell copies and what it's like to be an indie developer, because that was kind of a big deal at that point of the industry, because most of the time people were like, it's all AAA companies and it's all going to be Gears of War and it's going to be like a movie from now on, and then these little games came over and sometimes made more of a profit than the big games because they had less costs. And Fez is one of those games. It's a 2D platformer where you can shift the perspective like a box to different sides so that you can get around platforms and objects. And it also has a lot of learning languages or learning secrets as a game mechanic.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually a huge part of the game, which it took me a while to realize that. I think I was about 2 hours into it before I was like, oh, there's this whole other side that I just haven't been playing about this game, and that kind of opened it up for me, which I thought was cool. But yeah, the primary, I hesitate to call it a gimmick, the primary feature, I guess, of the game is that, it looks 2D, like you said, like this pixelated, almost like Super Nintendo style game, and then very quickly you can rotate the world and make it into a 3D game and use that to solve puzzles. And I hesitate to think of a game that's really done that before Fez. It seemed pretty unique at the time. There was a game that kind of had a similar presentation called Sky Blazer for the Super Nintendo, but it wasn't like a mechanic in the game. It was just a visual gimmick that they used in that game. That's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, it's a pretty unique concept.
Yeah.
If Sky Blazer is an SNES game, Was it Mode 7? Do you remember that was a thing for SNES where they were like, we can make things look 3D with Mode 7, and they used it in, like, Star Fox as well.
It's like an illusion that they created. Yeah. But Skyblazer is a 2D platformer, and then there are stages where you can like go into 3D space, and like the platforms will like rotate around like a spiraling tower and stuff like that, and it looks really cool. I was kind of reminded of that when I was playing Fez. But yeah, how far did you guys get into it? How much did you do? Because one big thing about Fez is like you can kind of control how much you play of it. You can go all the way and go super uber completionist if you want to, or you can kind of be like, I've got the gist of the game, that's good enough, and just kind of end it. You know, I'd say probably doing about roughly half of the stuff in the game. So how far did you guys choose to go with it?
So I have an interesting experience with Fez because I played it like as a new release when it first came out on Xbox Marketplace, and I was like obsessed with it. So I 100%ed it. I got 100% achievements on Xbox Live. So I have like a ton of time in the game. I was obsessed, like I said. And then so I only played like 2.5 hours on Steam just to revisit it, try and remember, kind of get through some of the stuff and refresh my memory. I didn't really feel compelled to replay the entire thing. And I don't blame you. And that's partly because of so when I played the game originally, I just played the game. It came out, it was popular, people were talking about it. I played it, I enjoyed it, I loved it. I didn't watch Indie Game the movie till after I played the game. So I went back and revisited, learned who Phil Fish was, and learned about things. So have you guys ever heard of the concept of a bitch eating crackers?
Yes. From you, actually.
So I taught you that. Okay, so basically bitch eating crackers, to those who are not aware, is things become much more annoying when you're annoyed with the person who's doing the thing. So it's like, you might not normally mind somebody eating crackers and crunching loudly, but if it's somebody you don't like or you're annoyed with, you're like, that bitch is eating crackers again. Like, it's just that sort of thing. I kind of give Fez the bitch eating crackers treatment now. It's like, I had a hard time enjoying it as much, knowing that Phil Fish is kind of a dick and not a very likable person. I don't have a positive opinion of the man. And so it was like, whereas there was obviously he did a lot of like little cutesy. I don't know if you guys like there was like a Legend of Zelda nods, and like like there's like just a little thing.
When you open the chests.
When you open the chest. Like that to me was like, oh, this bitch eating crackers. Like this bitch again. Like you know what I mean? Like, and like if I didn't hate Phil Fish, I was
trying to make
like,
us endeared to your game, you bastard.
Yeah. I was like, it's so cute that they're referencing Legend of Zelda, and then I was like, this sucks, dude. Shut up, you idiot. And so that would be my breakdown of again, I think it's a fantastic game, and like you said, it was innovative when it first came out. I had never played anything like it. I was borderline obsessed with it. Probably put like 30 or 40 hours into 100%ing it, however much it took back in the day on Xbox Live. I loved the game, and it's a great game, but Phil Fish is kind of a douche, so I think I can kind of see where you're coming from with that. So my experience. So John, you said about like you can choose how much you play of it. I got about 16 of the cubes. I think 17 of the cubes like built. And then that's where I kind of drew my line of, okay, because my experience of the game was, I think it's, as much as Phil Fish is a dickhead, what a beautifully crafted game. What a magnificent piece of art. Like, I couldn't help but be in wonder of every single pixel that was placed so perfectly. The way the camera moves and you spin it around, all the audio design, like, it's just... the like everything about it, the background audio, everything comes together really beautifully crafted, and I really appreciate some of the really small details, like the graveyard level I really liked, where when the thunder would strike, you would see the silhouettes of the ghosts.
I love it. I love that.
Was cool,
and
the
hidden platforms. I thought that was really well crafted. I like all the secret rooms that you can find, and there's bookshelves that you can move to find more hidden rooms. I think I really liked. What was the? There was one room that I really, really appreciated. I'm trying to think what it was, because there was one room with a QR code like in the wall.
And
I scanned it. I was like, okay, that's a QR code. I recognize it. And then it gave me like code to put into the controllers, and then it gave me a special cube. And I was like, this is awesome. And I really liked moments like that. But the bitch eating crackers part of me, there was some of those puzzles where I was like, oh, this is pretentious bullshit. This is like too much of like trying to be too clever. There was a room with a telescope in it, and there was like, and I noticed that there was like a pattern in the stars when you turn, and I was like, oh, it's just a little bit too much for me. I'm like,
yeah.
You're trying to be too clever with it. Keep it simple, sort of thing.
That telescope room. So I actually figured out what to do there, because there's a stone that you can find in another room that's like not too far away. That basically, it doesn't tell you exactly what to do, but like if you walk up to the stone, it starts glowing with those Tetris symbols.
Yeah.
And then whatever you press on the controller, it gives you the symbol for it on the stone. And so it gives you like a code to use to deduce the telescope room. Yeah, but like the thing is though, like that would be clever. But I do have a bone to pick with that telescope room, because like you don't just look through the telescope and then do the symbols in order, because there's 4 different pairs and you have to do the 4 pairs in order. So it's not like it just goes from left to right, because I kept doing it from left to right, and then I'd be like, why isn't it working? Well, you have to do it backwards from right to left, which is, but then you have to do the symbols from left to right. You have to do the pairs from right to left, but the symbols from left to right. And I was like, that is so dumb. I had to look it up, because I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And then, even though I did all that, I got the code for the Tetris symbols in another room. I came back to the telescope room, and I tried multiple times to get the code right. This room still didn't get goldened, because there's another puzzle that you do with the telescopes that's even more obscure. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and end the game now, because I was like, I was getting really into it, but I was like, I'm going to go through that 32 cube door that I discovered earlier and just end the game, because this is like too much for me.
Yeah, so the other puzzle in the room is one of the views that you can see through the telescope has red dots at the top left corner that are like legitimately 1 pixel.
Yes.
And it's 2 dots, and it does like it looks like Morse code. The first time I saw it, I was like, is it spelling something out in Morse code? If you do the L and R triggers in the sequence that it gives you for the red dots, you get like another hidden cube.
But you have to like convert, don't you have to like convert it to binary or something like that? You have to do some like legit code breaking with it.
Yeah, that's one of the criticisms I have of the game. Is I love the fact that you kind of keep seeing these like pillars that have like what looks like tetraminos, which is the Tetris blocks.
Yeah.
You keep seeing that, and then eventually you get to the room that John describes, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
When I press A, it shows one of them, and like left and right have their own one, and then you're like, oh, so it's like there's a language in the game, apart from when you go to the village and there's other people that have like a different language, but it's like you're playing the game on like a surface level, and then you accidentally come across a room, and then you realize that there's like other stuff that's been there the whole time, which I actually really love that about Fez. And I think maybe one of the reasons why I like Fez so much is because I like learning languages. You know, like I went to university for it, so like there's probably a part of me that like loves that idea, but I think they overdo it in some of the rooms. It's too, when you solve the puzzle, but then you realize there's some quirk where you have to like double solve it, and it doesn't count the first way you tried to solve it, like you described, John. It always feels a bit like, okay,
like you feel smart for a split second, and then the game goes, no, you're not smart.
No,
because I'm smarter.
I'm the smart one.
Yeah, and that's why I always felt like I felt a little bit like the game was a bit pretentious in places.
Yeah,
and then my biggest gripe with the game.
That's the Philfish coming out probably.
My biggest gripe with the game was it stressed me the fuck out. I had no idea how to navigate that map. I had no idea how to get back to places. I didn't get it. The doors just confused me. I was just stressed the whole time. When I got my 16 cubes and the little thing went, you should go back and see if you can open that door. I went, okay. And then I spent half an hour trying to find that fucking door, and I gave up. I went, sod it. I don't know where it is. It doesn't take, these hub world things don't take me back to it. I don't know where it is. This game, I can't work this map out. Fuck it.
I do think that some of that is the product of the time in 2012, but because like now, if the game came out now, you would definitely have fast travel. Like because like you sort of do. Because did you see those like little infinity doors?
They're the ones I don't know why one of those didn't take me back to the door room.
You have to discover, because they each have like an associated door.
They're like warp rooms.
They're like a warp to a specific. But you have to discover both of them for them to work.
Oh, okay.
But no, I agree with you, Gary. I think navigation is easily the game's biggest weakness, because there were so many times, especially late in the game, when I had completed most of the map, and I was just trying to get from one end of the world to the other. And it was just like, I mean, you got warp gates, which help a little bit, but like that giant map, like if I could just pull that up and like click on a room, then I'm like, I know where it is. I just need to be able to get to it. If I could just click on it and travel there, that would have made the game, like that would have increased the quality of life so much for my motivation to keep uncovering secrets and stuff.
I'd already completed it because I enjoyed the game. I couldn't handle how bored I was trying to find the next door.
Or you go to a door and then you're like, no, wait, not here. No, not this one.
Not here, not here, no.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole animation of like zooming out, which looks very pretty. Like
very nice. Yeah.
Beautiful to look at. But when I'm having to go back through it and watch it like 4 times, going, no, fuck, not this door.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
I did that many times. Yeah.
They overdid that as well because I think one of the reasons why Dark Souls is so popular is because you can warp to specific areas, but you can't warp exactly where you want. And I think that's one of the reasons why people remember the map so well for Dark Souls of like, oh, if I want to go from like here to here, then this is the route that you do it. It's because you don't have the ability to just like click a button and be like, I want to be in that area. But I think they don't give you enough of that in Fez. And they kind of pretend that there's like a hub with that one cube thing where you can always go to like kind of the start of these areas, but then trying to get to where you actually want after you go to those is still really tricky sometimes. So
every time I'd use one of those hub worlds, I'd land there and be like, okay, so the map, this is the closest I am to this point. Which fucking one of these 12 doors do I go through?
And the map also has weird perspective.
Yes,
you spend like 5 to 10 minutes trying to find like, okay, I know it's off of this one room, but there's like 6 different ways that it branches off. Which door leads where? And, you know, it just happens to be the last one that you try. I had that so many times where I was like, I want to go to this one specific room. Like I lowered the water level.
Yeah,
and that just adds more because there's additional doors underneath that you can get confused with. But yeah, that navigation is easily the game's biggest weakness, especially now.
Yeah, and that's why I couldn't finish. Because I as I say, I think it's beautifully crafted. I just think the navigation just made me. It stressed me out so much.
And I like how you can see like where you go in the background, like. In the background is the area where if you go through a door, you'll end up there. But again, it's just overdone. I think a lot of Fez is just slightly overdone.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit too Phil Fish.
Yep.
It's too fishy.
Yeah, the game is slightly too fishy.
He should have kept his original partner to keep him grounded, and then they could have found a middle ground.
I mean, like there is a... You could definitely smooth out a lot of that game really quickly, but...
So no, I do want to brag to you on the subject of languages that I actually used a pen and paper for this game.
Oh, I love that.
Because I found that room, and I think it was like the 3rd time I had been to it before I got it, where the quick brown fox is jumping over the lazy dog, and then it gives you an entire alphabet on the stone nearby, and I felt so proud of myself for doing it, and I felt like this is some missed shit right here. Yes. Yeah. I was like, this feels like an old school adventure game now. So I was proud of that. But then my bone to pick is that I got that whole alphabet, and then I started going around like, oh, I'm gonna start translating painstakingly, might I add, all of these tablets that I found with this language on it. Time to read what they say. Let's see. Trapped in a Fez factory, please send help, is what one of them said. And I was like, oh my God, he put jokes in here. He made me figure out this language, and then he wastes my time when I travel to be like, oh, I remember there was one over here on this stone. And he was like, oh, I'm trapped in a Fez factory, please send help. It's a joke. I was like, yeah, it is a joke, a bad one.
Your prize was you got to see the inner workings of Phil Fish's sense of humor.
Yeah. There were other ones that were just like, wait, how are you reading this? And I was like, oh, shut up. Just shut up. It became bitch-eating cracker syndrome for me at that point. And I was like, you know, I'm just ending the game. I'm going through the 32 cube door and I'm not looking back. Bye. I don't care what the rest of them say.
For something that feels so sincere, it's very odd to make you work that hard for stupid jokes.
Yes,
you think it would be like lore, it would be like some sort of backstory. You would learn why your character is kind of different from the village he grows up in more, because the village that you first start off in, they only experience the world in 2D.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to twist it to 3D, so you're different. And there's like lots of little cool areas as well you can go to. Did you go into the sewers at all?
I did. And then I couldn't remember how to get back there because I went down there. This is a dumb story. I went down there and I forgot that you could rotate because it changes the look so much. And so I just went to the left and the right, and I was like, I can't go anywhere. And I was like, well, maybe I'll get an item or something that'll allow me to traverse it later. And I just left.
Yeah.
And then later I was like, oh, I should have just rotated. Yeah. But then I couldn't find my way back to it. So
I spent 90 minutes in a Discord call with my friends being like, oh, I really like the sewer level. So I'm going to go back to the sewer level. And I just couldn't remember how to get to it. And I ended up going to like the sky area where it's all machinery. And I was like, I think that's connected. But yeah, I eventually got there. But
I'm so glad that we all kind of agreed the navigation thing. I was a little worried that I was going to be the only person to be like, right, yeah, game's great. But the fucking navigation, everyone would be like, really, Gary?
I love
it. You're so grumpy.
The navigation was
really easy, Gary. Duh.
It was really easy.
That shows you where you're going in the background.
I was a little worried that you'd be like, hang on, you had trouble navigating?
You didn't use your mini-map, Gary? That's crazy.
You did fast travel?
There's a map.
If you just click to whatever room you want to go to, you'll just go there.
There's a little blue ship in the middle of the top of the screen.
Oh my god.
The classic. If you don't know that reference, you need to watch the Easy Small Stuff.
Sketchy's Contract.
But yeah, it's quite surprising because in the documentary, Indie Game the Movie, Phil Fish comes across as a young man with anger issues, I would say.
Yeah.
He's like very angry sometimes about things in not a very productive way. But he made a game that, apart from what you described, is very earnest and very cute all the time. Yeah. So it's quite surprising. He obviously had like a vision and he was like very particular about it, and that's why he gets stressed out. But for somebody who like basically got very popular for being very like incendiary about game development and about like people who play games, to have such like a kind of cute, nice game come from him is quite surprising.
To defend him a little bit, making a game stressful. Like when I made mine, I was just lonely and sad and working ungodly hours and constantly just finding bugs that were driving me absolutely bonkers. And I had nights where I was crying at it, wanting to delete it. Like it was just a horrible experience.
And your reward is people being like, "When's it coming out? Hurry up! It's too expensive."
And when he was making it and filling it full of bitch-eating crackers, pretentious bullshit puzzles and stupid jokes. People were going, where the fuck's the game, Phil? TikTok, I want to play it. And that was pissing him off because he had a vision. He was like putting pixels in the, like being maybe a bit too specific with it, but like it's his art. That's what it is. So I think that grounded him a little bit until now he's probably not the most pleasant person when it comes to the gaming community and stuff. I kind of see how it might have warped him a little bit. Because I really remember the pressure.
Like, we all know a little bit about, or quite a lot about what it's like to have that kind of public scrutiny. And I think anybody who does a job like this, especially if it's public facing, you kind of need to develop a strategy for how you're going to interface with the public. Same for like working service jobs and stuff like that, or like where your lines are. Especially if you're something like this, how do you not get annoyed by somebody who's just like, yeah, I refunded it. You know, like people will say things that are just annoying, and it's like,
oh yeah, it's a horrible message on the refunds thing sometimes.
For Nightblights?
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah, really? Yeah, like I'd see weird comments on YouTube videos or people just writing horrible things. Like it always just bounced off me though, because I didn't care. I was always like, just you make a game. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult, and I think people need to, it's something that I think people sometimes stumble into, like careers like ours, and they don't realize this is going to be a thing. People are going to be annoying as fuck. They're going to be really mean to you. You're going to feel uncomfortable sometimes, and like some people deal with it very differently. And I think Phil Fish became like a figurehead very quickly for like indie game designers, and then he started to give his opinions on other things that weren't just Fez. And all of a sudden it was really easy for people to be like, he said the all Japanese games are shit, get him, and then all of a sudden it's like he's in this weird scenario where he's perpetually angry at people on the internet, but everything he says stokes the flames more. But and it's also, kind of shitty for him.
He was also quite bad because he's very bad at accepting that he could be wrong. He never started off by going, well, I don't really know everything, but he always said it from a point of authority. I think he got a little bit of an inflated ego from his rise to fame that happened very quickly, which, was unfortunate for him. Because I if you, as you were saying, it's such an earnest game. There's something about Fez where it just feels like it's a love letter to video games, and he's trying to communicate with the world in some beautiful manner, and that's how I think it started. But I think maybe as that, was it 4 years he was building that game or something?
something like that. Yeah,
I think might have snapped.
I'll say bitching and crackers really is like the only I'm really glad you picked the game. I'm really glad you had us play it because revisiting the game was really fun for me. And like I said, this was a very important game for me during that Xbox Marketplace era. Like this and Super Meat Boy were games that I've played an unreasonable amount of time in, right? And then so it's like the black eye on the game is like Phil Fish, condescending, pretentious kind of bullshit. But being able to revisit those moments like you talked about with the lighting change where you can like see the ghost and see the platforms. But the first time I figured out the platforms from the lightning, I was like blown away. This is 20 years ago.
And you see the raindrops like landing on top
and
of
then once you realize the raindrops will give you like an indicator of where you go. And so just little moments like that kind of pulled me back into where I was in my life when I played it for the first time was like really awesome for me. Because this was an important game for me. It was during a really weird time in my life too. But it was when I first left Alaska and came back to Washington. Was when I played this game. So for me, it was like a little time capsule into who I was at that point, which is forever ago. It was cool. I like that part of it.
Yeah, I'm happy that I got to play it for the first time because I first played it back in 2017 because I was like, I need to play Fez. Fez, very important game. And I played it for about 20 minutes, and it just wasn't something I was in the mood for at the time, and so I stopped. And I always meant to go back to it like when I was in the mood for that kind of game, and so I'm happy that I came back and I got to experience it. It feels like experiencing part of gaming history, especially indie game history, which I'm especially interested in. So, it was really fun to go through and check out. Yeah,
I'm glad I played it too, but just from like being able to understand the poor navigation was interesting to me, and but I appreciate a lot of the design as well. Like there was a lot. Basically, my brain was just fighting the whole time, going, "I love this, but I hate it."
Yes,
Yeah, and I do think that some of that is, we're playing a game that's 12 years old. I do think that some of it is a design issue, but I think also a lot of quality of life stuff wasn't perfected back then either, especially in the indie scene. So I'm not saying we should cut it any slack, but it is something to consider, I guess.
Oh yeah, like I know it's an older game, and I give it a bit of a pass, but then I can't when there's like the pretentious puzzles. I'm like, okay, the navigation I can let pass, but this puzzle's bullshit, and I'm not interested in it. It's hard enough navigating your map. Never mind doing this fucking riddle.
The main section that you spend most of your time in is like particularly hard to navigate sometimes to like get to the one door that takes you to like the wood world or the lightning world.
I will say there was one part, and I think this was just before I was like, I'm ending the game now. I found like what the infamous I discovered later, the infamous Black Monolith room. Which apparently took like the internet like close to a week to solve, because it was so obscure. Because I went in there and there was like some what were they called,
tetraminos
in the background, and I was like, oh okay, and I tried to input the code or what I thought was the code every which way, and nothing was working, and there was no other indicators what you do. And then I found out because I was like, I broke down, I looked it up. And the way that you solve the room, like it was impossible for me to do, until I started New Game Plus. And in New Game Plus, they give you these items. I think they're called the sunglasses or something, where you can see in first person. And so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go into that room and then I guess put the glasses on or whatever and look in first person, and you can see that there's like symbols and stuff on the ground on the surface that you're looking at. So the game goes from like 2D to 3D to 4D or whatever. Like you're able to see, the surfaces that you're standing on too. And I was like, oh my God. I was so annoyed at that point of just like, because I sat there and I was trying to solve an unsolvable room.
Yes.
And I was just like, this could have just been locked until New Game Plus. Why are you even able to go in here?
It is. Yeah, there's another room where it's like a seat or it's like a throne.
Yes,
when you
I
rotate,
found that too.
You can see the code, right? But you can't do it correctly until you can see in first person, I don't think. Or something along those lines.
Yeah, and on one hand, it's really cool that you can see in first person in that game, honestly. Very cool. But, it's just too obscure, I think, for me.
I think locking it behind New Game Plus means that you're very likely to encounter, if you are really into Fez, and you're trying to get the kind of purple cubes, it's very likely that you'll encounter a puzzle where you just can't solve it. And then when you get the first person thing, you're like, look around the room, there's a code in the grass. Okay, just go ahead. So
for me, I always think like, how does the frustration of like trying to figure something out weigh up against how good it feels to solve it. And I always think, like, the reason Resident Evil is such a great game is because it just goes, hey, you found a spade key. Where do you think that goes? And you go, oh, that goes in the spade door, doesn't it? And you get that little light up feeling in your brain. And that's the same feeling I got when I resolved any puzzle in Fez. The same like little thing clicked on in my brain. But Resident Evil doesn't make you do that frustration. This spade key, what do I do with it? Maybe if I look at it in first person, like, you don't have to do any of that. It's the same bulb lights up in your brain if it's an easy puzzle or a difficult puzzle.
There's once or twice in Resident Evil where you have to look in first person.
Oh yeah, it's like, don't get me wrong, there's some puzzles in Resident Evil that are a little trickier, but my point is, like,
right, but yeah.
They're never that hard.
They're not. They don't make you like pull out a pen and paper and write down a cipher for a stone that says, "Wait, how are you reading this?"
But then I also know sometimes some people, enjoy the pen and paper. That's the bit they like, not the solving it. It's the actually deducing what it is.
That's the whole point of Fez. The whole point of Fez is it's a game about looking at something in 2D and then looking at it with a deeper interest or knowledge or vision at 3D. And it's like you can go through the game and get the basic cubes and just complete it, but then eventually when you solve these other little language puzzles, it's like, oh, there was more to that room than I first thought. That's like the whole point of the game, and I feel like it does at least deliver that message right from the very beginning when you're in the village and everybody's a 2D person and you are the 3D person. Like, that is the whole point of Fez. It's like you can complete a room or you can complete a room. But unfortunately, it just overdoes the puzzle sometimes to the point where it's like, no, I completed the harder bit, and now you're telling me there's an even harder thing that you look up on the wiki somewhere, and it was like, oh, the red lights or whatever. And you're like,
yeah, exactly. Like, I will say, I became a lot more interested in the game once I discovered the extra hidden layer that you can do.
Yes.
Because up until then, I was mostly just like going to places, getting little cube bits, just collecting stuff, treating it like the Banjo-Kazooie or something, which I was fine with. Like, it was a fine experience, but it wasn't like transcendent. And I was getting a little tired of, like, I guess the primary feature of the game was just like, rotate it and see what else is there.
The platform's close.
So I think it's really good that the game had that.
The platform's close if you rotate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas for the record, I loved that. I was like, oh look, the platform's closer.
But you knew when I picked this game as well, John, there'd be something about it.
Yeah.
The little signal thing where it's like, actually, it's the language.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a commentary about how deepening our perspectives. Yeah, blah blah blah. But I'm glad you guys. It was fun to go back. I didn't like recomplete it again because I was like you, Doug. I like 100%ed it with all of the crazy advanced shit, and obviously I looked at some of the codes back in the day, but I like tried to. I did that one room, John. I mapped out everything to the controller, and I like wrote that down. So I like how it feels a little retro, including some. It does. References.
Yeah.
But speaking of retro, we have to do our console tier list soon. But before we do that, can we ask Doug?
Doug,
is that okay, John? Can we ask?
Will
Doug?
you marry me?
It is
no.
It is Doug's turn to pick his book club game. Dun, 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 dun.
Da, 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 da,
da. So I don't remember if we've ever. I know we've talked about it. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the actual podcast, but all of us, I think, at one point or another, have indicated a little interest in a game, and I wanted to go a little outside of what I would normally do. Because obviously I pick a lot of ASIM games or multiplayer games, and I was like, let me do a single player game this time around, and I kind of wanted to play one that I wanted to play that I also would be confident you guys wanted to play, and so I'm gonna go with Crow Country.
Crow Country! I've been meaning to play that, so this works out great, and I think all three of us have. Yeah. So no, have you played it yet?
No, I kept thinking I should, and then I wasn't sure if I would stream it or not, and then I just stopped.
I've played it. I think I'm the only one here who's played it. But I will very much. I've been looking for an excuse to play it again because there's a new game plus that I would very much like to go through. So,
all right, sounds good. Now, Crow Country is like it's supposed to be like a retro survival horror experience, right? Like it's kind of pixelated, sort of like Resident Evil PS1.
It's Silent Hill PS1 Resident Evil. Yeah, it's that kind of style. Yeah. It's really cool. Doug, good choice.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited to check it out because I have heard good things. As always, when there's a retro survival horror game that comes out, people are like, "You gotta play it! You gotta play it! oh my god, it's just like playing Resident Evil.
I think it's a very cool game. Maybe I'll replay it again and be like, oh, actually, no, never mind.
I will
I can't navigate.
I think I've been very mostly
so
positive of the book club choices. I can't think of a single book club game that I've had a negative opinion on yet. However, I will caution that I tend to not favor these modern retro survival horror games. I did not like Tormented Souls, for example. You
did caution that you would hate cat games, so
yeah. Well, and that was probably the closest I got to a negative review. No, I did like Little Kitty Big City for one.
You know, it's funny. You bring up the book club games, and I know that I struggled a lot with Silvio, probably just because I'm bad at single player games. But did you hear that the new Silvio game is got rave reviews? Silvio 3. Silvio 3.
I haven't played it yet. I keep meaning to check it out. Yeah.
Apparently, it's like incredible. I'm hearing rave reviews of the new Silvio. So
damn,
I didn't know. I only know because Dread XP published it. And
yeah.
I was at PAX this weekend, and I spent a lot of time at the Dread XP booth and talking to those guys, and it came up in conversation. Silvio came up in conversation.
Did you get to meet Brian?
Brian, can you
Mortuary assistant developer. He's heading up Dread XP now, I think.
I think I know who that is. Yeah, he's
okay.
He's very
I know
tall,
he's there.
Very, very tall, slender guy.
Yeah, I haven't met him. I just know that he goes to PAX. He's always at PAX.
So that's not who I spent the most of my time talking to, because I think he was probably Brian, because if you describe him as a VIP type person, a very important person, and he was always that guy that I'm thinking was Brian was always being sworn by him. So I was chatting with some of the other fellows that were there, and of course I met 5 people too, so I'm terrible at names.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I keep meaning to make it out to a PAX, because I think the last time I went to a PAX was before the pandemic in 2020. Wow. Yeah, it was March 2020, actually, just before it happened. Or February 2020, I can't remember. But yeah, I think it was before Dread XP had a presence there, so I haven't really seen their booths. Been wanting to check it out.
Yeah, they were there last year as well, but this year they had a big thing, and they were really... Last year it was one guy, if I remember correctly, and I just chatted with them for a little while. This time they had 8 employees there or something like that. It was crazy. They were showing off 4 different games.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of games under their library now, so...
Yeah, it was really cool. That's another one that I thought about. One of the ones that I thought about doing for the book club is the Dread XP game, Dread Delusion. You guys heard of that?
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that one.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
All right, so we have one last thing to discuss, and it's a big one. We're going to do part 2 of our console tier list, everybody. Hey!
Let's go.
Now,
oh my god. Yeah. The enthusiasm is palpable.
For our audio-only listeners, we recognize that the visuals aren't available to you, but you're in luck because this week, due to a change in how we're recording, the other guys can't actually see the tier list. I'm the only one that can see it, so we'll be reiterating over and over what tier things are in. So if you missed the last one, I'll go through the tiers right now and update you guys where we are. Yeah. I'll go from S tier to F tier. So in S tier, the only thing we have is the Sony PlayStation 1. How we feeling about that?
Yeah. Very happy.
Very happy about that. A tier, we have Sega Dreamcast and Nintendo 64.
Yep, I'm happy.
Yep. Checks out. B tier is Game Boy and the NES.
Yeah.
I feel like all is in order.
Yeah,
C tier is the original Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
D tier, and we kind of did this last minute. We didn't really discuss it much, but we didn't really have much to say. The Sega Master System, which we were basically I don't know.
I don't know you, so you suck.
Yeah.
And today
do we want to make a James tier?
Nah, I think D tier is funny because now we've got one in every tier. Yeah. And then the F tier, the Xbox One.
Still real. Still real.
Yeah,
dude. Still real. Fuck that console.
Yeah.
The spyware console.
That's what we've got. Now we're going to start off with a classic console, the Sega Genesis. Where do we put the Sega Genesis, guys? We gotta decide.
I mean, I love this console.
Same.
Like, this was like my first console that I got to play as a kid. Like, and there's some real classics on there. I think one that I think's underrated. Maybe you guys will like pop off for it. I loved Altered Beasts.
I never played Altered Beasts, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, it was such a good game. You like played as these warriors. It was multiplayer, and you would like transform into these beast modes, and there'd be bosses at the end of every level. And I never got past the second level.
I would get into. Yeah,
never got past the second level, but I played the shit out of that game and just
those games are the best. The ones that you play the first level over and over and over again.
Yeah. Because the first level was against this like mud flinging boss, like this monster like creature that just fling heads of itself. And then the second one was this eyeball boss, and I think I beat that a few times, and I don't even remember what the third level is because I must have just died really quick or not got past the eyeball boss. Because the second level the first level you turn into like a beast man. The second level you turn into like a dragon that could shoot lightning. It was so cool, such a cool little game. But then obviously you have like Sonic the Hedgehog,
right? Sonic
Alex
1 through 3, right?
Yeah. So many great games on it.
I will say also the Disney games had good Genesis ports, like Aladdin for Genesis is
Lion King.
Lion King. Ooh, Lion King is such a hard game. That game's brutal, man. That's another game that like it was a struggle to get past the first level for me.
I remember the Aladdin game was really hard as well. Like I remember the first level so well because that one I could do.
Yeah.
But then like because there's one tree which has got like a pair of Mickey Mouse ears. If you stand up like in alignment with it, you'd get like some apple from it. Like one of the gems. I just remember that was always like always made me smile.
I don't remember the specifics of playing it, but I do remember playing through Aladdin on Sega Genesis at a friend's house, and we just had the best time passing the controller. You try it, you see if you can do it. Yeah. I will say one interesting thing about those Disney games, particularly Aladdin, is that they released an Aladdin game for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo at the same time, and they were different games, but with the same overall like themes and stuff. Like I think from what I remember, the stages were the same. Like you'd start off in Agrabah, trying to evade the cops the guards, but they did it differently. Like the way that you progressed through the level was different. Different sprites, different things that you collected.
Was there still like? I think there was like people that would throw pots out the windows and stuff like that. Was that all still in like both versions?
I think so. I honestly, it's been so long, I struggle to remember the specifics.
Was there camels you could jump on? They'd spit.
I do remember that being in one of them. I think it was the Genesis version.
That's the Genesis one, yeah. I was wondering if it was in the other one as well.
Yeah, but that kind of blew my mind because I played the Genesis version growing up, and then later I got a Super Nintendo emulator at home, and I was like, time to play through Aladdin. And I was like, this is totally different. This is a completely different game. It was crazy. But yeah, I mean, the Genesis, I think the strongest games are the Sonic games. And I know we all have different favorite Sonic games, perhaps. Mine's Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and that was on the Genesis, so I think that's definitely a highlight.
Yeah.
But Sonic 2, I think, is the fan favorite.
Yeah, I think that the Genesis, I think the Sega consoles in general were like more, like the Nintendo ones were like the mainstream ones, and then like the Genesis was like the punk rock one. There was like people was like more niche games. I would argue that I like the Sonic series better than the Mario series. So if it's like going head to head with the flagships, I thought Sonic was cooler.
Huh. Yeah, I agree. I love Sonic.
And so yeah. Sorry, what? No. I was saying a huge bonus. I don't know if we're going to give it bonus points here. I'd like to give it bonus points here. I'll see what you fellas think. But the 32X expansion was a Sega Genesis exclusive, right? Like we were actually able to get it into 32-bit gaming, bro.
Right.
That was sick.
I was just thinking about what like the favorite Sonic game was, and I think I agree with you, John. Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah.
Because Sonic 3, and then you would put Sonic and Knuckles in the top of it, and it became like a new super game. I remember that blew my mind as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I love the soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
the boss theme in Sonic and Knuckles.
I mean, Sonic's soundtrack is amazing, which, by the way, we got to talk about the Sega Genesis sound card because there's some banging soundtracks on Genesis. The music was great.
I think it technically isn't as good as the SNES one, but I just love the way the Genesis sounds. That metallic guitar, like clang sound that like all the games get from the Genesis. I don't know why. I just love how like industrial and like.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why Sonic
yeah.
took off, is because the music in it is like really memorable, and it has
Even to this day.
Yeah.
Sonic soundtrack slap.
Yeah, and even in the third Sonic game, which was partially made by Michael Jackson, the soundtrack for it, as well as what's it called, Moonwalker, which came out in the Genesis.
I was about to say, yeah,
they were able to like replicate quite a lot of like it's that kind of Michael Jackson at his like highest point, when it's like very Sony, almost like the Sony music production, where it's like this kind of like traditional pop. I don't know how to describe it. There's a lot of like kind of sound effects that if you play them really quickly, they make a beat. And the Genesis has a lot of that kind of like clang sound, but I just love it. And I think Streets of Rage as well had all that kind of house music in it.
Streets of Rage.
It's like house music producers made the Streets of Rage soundtrack, so everybody remembers them as like these like weird bumping beats and stuff. And I think the music really helped the Genesis make its mark with the sound card.
And that's why, and it's one of the many reasons why I'm going to suggest A tier for the Sega Genesis.
I was thinking A.
I'm happy with that. I think I'd put it under the N64 though.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I agree.
What do you guys think?
I'm biased, but yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, we'll put Genesis below N64.
All I can think of is like the weirdly fond memory of just having to go to get it to
Classic.
work.
Oh yeah, that's how all those were.
I just put that in action at PAX this last weekend. I was using one of the NES stations to play Castlevania.
Oh yeah.
There's a big sign that said "Don't blow into the cartridges," so I had to do like the look both ways.
Oh yeah.
Because it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. I did it and it worked first try.
That's because it works.
It works.
It does work. It literally does. I'm not gonna have anyone gaslight me about that.
No, this isn't some schoolyard rumor type thing. If the game didn't work and you blew on it, it would start working.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on. We've got so many consoles to get to. Let's do kind of a funky one. Let's do the Nintendo GameCube.
Okay.
The Nintendo GameCube.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story about the Nintendo GameCube. It came out my freshman year of college, and I grew up in an island in Southeast Alaska, and I had moved up to Central Alaska where I was going to college at the University of Alaska Anchorage, and they had an EB Games there. I don't remember if it was an EB Games or a GameStop. You remember when there was like 4 different versions and they all ended up merging? So there was like EB Games, there was GameStop, there was, I don't know, you guys probably don't remember this shit.
Oh, it's not in the UK, so.
There were multiple different game stores that were all.
I remember EB Games, yeah.
But so I don't remember which type it was, but it was one of the mall game stores, and they were doing a midnight release, and so or not a midnight release. Sorry, I stayed up overnight to wait to be there the morning of the release. Like I did an overnight. Basically, I camped out at the store to get there in time to get a GameCube. I was so excited about it. Like I was dying, right? So I'm waiting. They open the store. I walk in. They got in 5. They got in 5 GameCubes, and all 5 were pre-orders. They had no copies to sell me. So I waited overnight in the mall, which they didn't lock the inside of the mall. So I got to wait overnight in the mall with the store locked. Go up, stand in line. So I'm leaving dejected and super sad. And some guy in the parking lot is like, "Hey, they've got them at Kmart." And so I ran across the street. I ran to Kmart, and they had a GameCube. So I still got it. Yes. Never had to stay up overnight. Nice. But I camped out for the GameCube, didn't get it, then got it anyways. So,
amazing. That's the
cute story.
Do you like the GameCube?
A tale of the human spirit.
You love
this is where he goes, "No, I fucking hate it.
I don't have any games
buying it every day since."
I'm ready to fight for the GameCube, my favorite console.
Oh, here we go.
It's not my favorite console. I just thought it'd be funny.
Oh, damn. I was excited, dude.
I thought it'd be funny to say that.
So the GameCube, just to remind myself, that had the little tiny discs, didn't it?
Yes. And it looked like a little toy. It had like a handle.
And I thought it was, it did have a handle, didn't it? It was very pretty. A very pretty little box. I think it was a cube. I think it's a very cute looking console.
I'm going to fight for
pretty. I mean, I don't disagree that it's a nice looking console, but I think a lot of people kind of memed on it a little bit because it is unusual looking. Yeah. It's like a little square shaped like toy box type of thing.
It's tiny. The controller was weird. I have a Switch controller that's like modeled after the GameCube controller. It's like the purple, weird, janky one. I love the controller. I love the console. I love the aesthetic. I thought that it launched with fun games. I want to talk.
What did it launch with?
It launched with well, for me, it's like the Star Wars game. What was it called? Star Wars
Rogue Squadron.
Yeah. Rogue Squadron I was obsessed with. Super Smash Brothers came out the first year it was out. Super Smash Bros.
Melee was on GameCube, which I mean, controversial opinion, the best Super Smash Brothers.
Yep.
I don't know.
I think
there's something about Melee. It's still played competitively to this day. It's got that kind of like high level speed and finesse to it.
Luigi's Mansion came out at launch.
Luigi's Mansion, that was it. I was like, there's it wasn't a Mario game. Luigi's Mansion,
There's also Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, as they called it, which is basically just Sonic Adventure 2 with the 2-player mode from the Dreamcast, because that was the start of Nintendo becoming buddies with Sega.
Yeah,
Sega was like, we're not really making enough money from the console market, so we're going to start to put our stuff on your platform.
Yeah, Sega being like, we need Sonic to have a new home.
Yeah.
You?
Sonic is homeless right now.
Yes.
Will you take him in?
There was also and Crazy Taxi as well.
Did GameCube was Pikmin the first Pikmin on GameCube, or was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we got Pikmin from. Which
Pikmin was, I think, a launch title as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
along with Luigi's Mansion.
And Animal Crossing too, right? Was it the first Animal Crossing was on GameCube as well?
I want to say that's correct, but
I'm almost positive.
Might need to get fact checked.
So it's having to fact check everything right now.
It might have been a DS title.
It was. If that is the case, though, that's huge. Like, that's a lot of big titles coming out on the GameCube.
Well, you want to know? Sorry, go ahead, Sino.
I was gonna say it might have been that Animal Crossing came out before, but it didn't really get big in the West, because back then it was much harder for, if a game didn't get ported by a company, then that's it. You know, it's not very easy to access. So it might have been that Animal Crossing was like a Japanese only franchise, but the GameCube one was one of the first times they were like, we want the West to try it.
You're correct. The original Animal Crossing came out for Nintendo 64 in April 2001 in Japan only, and then they ported it over to NA.
Nice.
Either way, though, for as far as NA is concerned, Animal Crossing, our first experience was on the GameCube.
There is an all-time great game, I think we'd all agree, that was originally a GameCube exclusive. Do you know what it is?
An all-time great game.
Metroid Prime?
Yes.
It's not Luigi's Mansion.
Originally a GameCube exclusive.
Metroid Prime, Star Fox Adventures.
Oh, was this the Capcom 5, John?
The Capcom 5.
Part of the Capcom 5 when Nintendo were going to do more adult titles from Capcom. And they released Piano 3. Not adult as in, like, there's gore, not like tits. But anime tits.
Instead of like, we're doing porn now.
Some people still said it was the best iteration of Resident Evil 4.
Yes, Resident Evil 4, originally GameCube exclusive. When I first got my GameCube, it was only on GameCube, Resident Evil 4. And they re-released the Resident Evil games on GameCube. They released because I still have them actually. I've got 2 and 3 for the GameCube as well as the Resident Evil 1 remake.
They did Code Veronica for GameCube too, didn't they?
I think so, but it wasn't. It was like just a port. But it wasn't like a remake.
Yeah, it was a port from the PS2 version. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but also, like the Resident Evil remake for GameCube and Resident Evil 0 to a lesser extent.
Resident Evil remake was originally for GameCube as well. That's right. Yes, and I would consider that an all-time great game as well. But GameCube surprisingly had some like kind of more mature exclusives, which was, I would say, a first for Nintendo, or maybe not a first, but it was more pronounced with this one.
They definitely had stages where they wanted to go into a more mature audience because they had like kid console vibes a lot, didn't they?
That was the big struggle, I think, for Nintendo at that point, is trying to convince people that it's not like, it is really great for the 4 people with a controller party kind of night, but it's also got like they released Metal Gear Twin Snakes and they had Resident Evil and stuff. They were trying to convince people that the core gamers is what they call it had something to get from buying a Nintendo console as well. And I think the GameCube had plenty of those. It's just, it was hard to shake that kind of like Nintendo's for kids image.
Yeah.
Especially when they're trying to like be like, you'd have Mario as the mascot being like, Resident Evil, woohoo!
Woo! Right. And on that note, I think that GameCube is kind of weak Mario games, honestly. Like Mario Sunshine.
If I say Sunshine was
Mario
the GameCube,
Sunshine was good, dude. No, don't do this to me.
I'm just saying, I tried recently to... I played Sunshine pretty recently, or at least as much as I could stomach of it. I'm just saying it's not one of the stronger Mario games. And then you got Mario Kart Double Dash. And then like, what about the Mario parties on this thing? Like Mario Party like 7 and stuff.
Oh,
I don't
Mario
know.
Party 7 and Mario Party 8 were both classics, bro. I don't know. I feel like John's picking nits, man. You're just trying to find reasons to knock the GameCube down, bro.
I said it's my favorite console. I love.
You know, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You hurt me once, John. I'm not falling for it again.
No, I mean, I just think that that's one area where it's a little weaker than other Nintendo consoles. That's all I'm saying.
First
yeah, like Wind Waker and Sunshine and stuff.
Wind Waker and Twilight Princess were great.
I do think that Twilight Princess, I have a soft spot for it. I love Twilight Princess. I think it's one of my favorite Zelda titles, but that's a personal opinion. I'll try to keep it out of our discussion.
No.
So yeah, let's keep your personal opinions out of this discussion about how we feel about the console.
I'll keep my personal feelings out of this and try to remain objective, unlike some people.
Where are we going to put it?
That's a great question. I think B, high B.
See, and I would have asked for bottom of A. But
I was thinking high B until you reminded me of how many great games it had, and now I'm feeling bottom of A.
I could do bottom of A. I also will say the controller gets memed on a little bit, but I love the controller. I think it looks kind of weird, but it works. Yeah. And playing Resident Evil 4 on this thing was like a dream, I will say.
When Pokemon Unite came out, I intentionally went out and bought a Switch controller that was like a GameCube controller so I could play Unite with it. I fucking love the GameCube controller. It's so good.
It is. It slaps.
A nice little controller.
I mean, I only have one real complaint about the control. Well, the D-pad's not great for fighting games, but my only real complaint about it is I think if I end up going to hell will sound like a million people playing Smash Bros. Melee with the clicky L and R. Because when people are playing Melee, it gets particularly clicky. I have to say. Yeah, and when you're playing it yourself, you don't notice. You don't care.
It's great when they play with the headphones and they have headphones on, and you can just hear the clicks. You can't hear the game, just the clicks. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But that's a minor gripe. Very
judge it like because I it's one of the few Nintendo consoles I've actually played and had some experience with. So, but the way you guys were describing it and going through the list of games, I was assuming it'd go in high B, low A. So,
okay.
So, do we want to do low A?
Yeah.
Above or below the Sega Genesis?
Below Genesis.
Okay.
For me, it would be
see that.
Genesis has like iconic, never be beaten games.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that.
Okay.
I need to edit.
Great. Let's do a quickie. The Virtual Boy.
Oh man.
What do you guys think?
Have I got some stories for you guys? When I was a
Take
kid,
it away, Doug.
When I was a kid, my high school friend Marshall's parents got him a Virtual Boy, so I got to play it. It sucked ass. It's one of the worst consoles. One of the worst things.
It's a weird console. I thought you play games on it or something.
Yeah, it was terrible. It would give you a headache. And of course, this is like in the 90s, so it didn't have anything. I didn't have contacts and it didn't have anything for glasses kids. So I was just like, I had to either be blind while I played it, and it probably made my vision worse just playing it. And then if I used my glasses, it was very uncomfortable. It was not a good fit for anyone. Everybody felt uncomfortable wearing it. It was red and black. It was horrible.
Yeah, migraine inducing.
Yeah.
Awful. I only got to experience one time because a friend had it, and I used it for like a couple minutes where I was like, what is this?
Yeah,
a joke?
It's the lowest tier we've got. Is my
I was assuming B tier.
Yeah, I was gonna say low A, but all right.
Did it even have a single game that was a game? Like, does it anything that you guys remembers? Like Virtual Boy? I mean, I think I played like a tennis game.
I can't think of it.
This is where you find out.
Yeah, there's a tennis game. Yeah. I remember something about that. But yeah, below Xbox tennis. One in F tier.
Yeah, chuck it in the bottom.
Chuck it in the bottom.
There's no possible way they made a Waterworld game on the Virtual Boy. Like, that's got to be the worst piece of entertainment media ever created, right? Like, it's Waterworld. They made a Waterworld game.
That's how would you even?
I don't know.
Now that's what we should do for the book club.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my next pick for sure. Yeah, I think I played Mario Tennis. Terrible.
I think Mario Tennis is the only game I can think of that was a game for the Virtual Boy, and I can't even tell you anything about it except that it existed.
Nestor's Funky Bowling. I gotta go through this another time.
Yeah. Let's go to one that's much more fun to talk about. The Sony PlayStation 2. Which I'm thinking probably C for this one.
Whoa.
So I'll jump in. The PS2 is my favorite console. Like this is my console. I love the PS2.
Add that to the wiki.
Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, one day I get a wiki. Wow.
Gary's wiki. If one day I got a wiki.
Oh yeah, somebody likes to make me a wiki. Flex
a
on the
wiki
camera.
page.
No, I think the PS2 was like one of the best things ever made. I think it's still the best-selling console. I don't think the DS beat it. I know it got
the DS
close.
didn't beat it, and the Switch is getting close, I think.
Yeah, but I think
Well,
I think PS2 still is on top, and I think for good reason. Like it was not just a console. It was the first entertainment system. That was your DVD player. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful looking console. I still have mine. I think it just looks nice.
Me too. Yeah.
I think the controller was like it perfected. The PS1 had a really nice controller. The PS2 controller was perfect. Like they just the every iteration since then has just basically been the same controller.
They haven't deviated from that now. There's more motion controls now, but it's like the same controller as it was back then. I agreed.
Yeah,
perfect thumbsticks.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect controller. I don't think there's a console that has a better controller. And then the games, like I was sitting there before, like earlier today, thinking like, what games did I play on the PS2? And I kept just thinking of banger after banger, even titles that's like the weird ones. Like, did anyone ever play Enter the Matrix?
No.
That was a fantastic Matrix game. It's such a weird one.
Was
like, it's just it was so good. And then there's like Predator Hunting Grounds.
Yep, that game fucked.
That game was so good.
Yeah.
Was it called Predator Hunting Grounds, like the new one, or was it different?
It's like was it Concrete Jungle? Was that what it's called?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was
Concrete
getting confused.
I was like, that'd be crazy if they
Concrete
named
Jungle.
it.
So I think I got sorry.
You got it mixed up. I knew what game you were talking about.
Yeah, the one where you could hang up the bodies and skin them.
Yeah.
Amazing game. Lord of the Rings: Two Towers. That's like one of the best games ever made, as far as I'm concerned. Like I think that was like so good, and that's where you get into like the other ones. Like the Van Helsing had a good game. Spider-Man 2, Simpsons Hit and Run, Ratchet & Clank.
Bro, did you guys play SOCOM for PS2? SOCOM.
No.
I probably played SOCOM. It was the best online multiplayer shooter of its time, like when it came out. And it was like you had to buy like the special modem to like hook up to your PS2 to like plug it into the route, like to plug it into your modem. I probably played like 1,000+ hours of SOCOM online. I used to play with my best friend. We would literally, it was like, that was my first, you guys know how I feel about online multiplayer games. And that was my first real like foray into just like no lifing an online multiplayer game. So fucking good. Dude.
A sign of things to come.
Yeah. Sign of the downfall, bro.
Yeah.
Sign of the downfall.
Damn.
But it's okay. I'll go to bat with you for a PS2 because you're absolutely correct.
I could go on about the games as well. Because
I think we're all going to bat for PS2. I was joking about
I don't think anyone's going to fight me on it.
Yeah.
It's just such a... I just love talking about the video games on it because like the Armored Core 2 and 3 were amazing on it. You had Dynasty Warriors 2 through 5, I think. There was like so many Dynasty Warriors on it.
Yeah, choose to
Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry debuted on the PS2.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about games, we could go on and on and on because this is, I think, PlayStation 2. I would argue is when games really transitioned into modern styles. Yeah, this is where they kind of perfected what they had kind of started with the previous generation a little bit.
Yeah, where like it became Final Fantasy 10 and Silent Hill 2. Is that?
Yeah,
2 and 3.
Well, Silent Hill 2 and 3 and 4.
And Resident Evil 4 was on PS2, right, as well?
It was.
Well, it was a GameCube exclusive, though.
Well, I will say
they got the scraps.
They came out for PS2 as well. But like I think PS2 on that front, like PS2 is kind of the golden age of console horror, if you will, because it wasn't just Resident Evil and Silent Hill that were flourishing on this. It also, I mean, you've got Fatal Frame 1, 2, and 3. You've got like Clock Tower 3. You've got Haunting Ground. You've got Rule of Rose. You've got like tons and tons of horror games. Actually, From Software's foray into horror games, Kuon, is on the PlayStation 2 as well.
I like Kuon.
I haven't played it.
I
want to play it though. I have a copy actually. I just need to get around to trying it. But yeah, a Siren is also for the PS2. Like horror games were really pervasive on this console, and I think that there was a lot of development that happened in this era. But I mean, like I said, we could just talk for forever about games. The PS2 got like an insane catalog.
Arguably one of the best wrestling games as well.
Yes.
With Here Comes the Pain.
Yep. Here Comes the Pain.
I wanted to make sure to mention that for
amazing.
Doug because that game was so good.
Yeah.
That is so funny. I was reacting to Dexerto's top 100 games of all time list, and Here Comes the Pain was number 100.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wrestling fans, is this right? Was this like the GTA San Andreas of wrestling games?
Well,
like,
well, and because we had the WCW NWO Revenge like era of games in the N64 was like the previous gold standard in wrestling games, and then they tried a bunch of different kind of formats between that and Here Comes the Pain, and like they nailed it with Here Comes the Pain. It was like it felt like an actual like wrestling game simulation.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I think it's interesting is like I think the PS2 has some of the like so the Dragon Ball Z games as well. I think the Dragon Ball Z games, they've never been as good as they were on the PS2 since then. Because they had Budokai Tenkaichi 1 through 3, and those games were all brilliant. Yeah, I don't like honestly. I just think it's great. And memory cards. It was like one of the last consoles to still use memory cards. I loved them. I loved having like
that's a plus.
Yeah.
Easy way to understand what you're doing with your data. You know,
Yeah.
it's got blocks on it,
and you could take it around
You
your
can
friends.
take it to your friend's house. Yeah, exactly.
Very easy to understand. You know, we didn't have USB pen drives or whatever at that point when it first came out, so they helped with that. Like I've been looking at a list of PS2 games, and I was still being like, oh my god, classic, when I got to like 500.
Yeah,
I'm on like 600 here. And
That's what I think is interesting.
Like,
There's
I
like
like
there's so many games where you just go, it's like odd, like Enter the Matrix is the one where I'm like, that's such a weird anomaly of a game, but it was so good. And I think that's like the PS2 in a nutshell. The games always were good, even when they were
this
like,
is
kind of nothing.
This is also, I think, where GTA arguably like really started gaining steam with GTA 3, right? That was PS2. And then wasn't Vice City also on PS2?
It was.
Yeah, Vice City
and San Andreas.
And San Andreas. So you got like three of what many people would consider like the three best GTA games, honestly.
And it looked
all
cool,
on the PS2.
sleek design. You could put it on the side or vertical. Let's not beat around the bush.
I mean, it's top. I'm moving it.
Before we stick it in S tier, I just want to like say one last thing about the games as well.
Yes.
If you're ever like in question about how good the graphics could be on the PS2, look up Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus. It was like one of the last games that came out on the PS2, and it was so pretty. For a PS2, that was a very pretty game. And
I think PS2 is a pretty console, just in general. I think graphics, like this is when they started, like graphics started looking really good around this era.
Like, so when you look at Dirge of Cerberus, you go, that is... The PS2 was not that far off a PS3 in terms of like the graphical jump. It was crazy.
When you look at the under the hood at the PS2, you're like, what a pile of shit. Like, barely any RAM. Do you know what I mean? Barely any memory to work with, but they just the limitations. They made it work.
I'm putting it at very top of S tier, above the PS1. Is that all right?
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. Guitar Hero came out for the first time on PS2 as
Guitar Hero 2 was like a revelation, right?
Start of that culture. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we could just go on and on. We get the rest of the podcast could be just us reminiscing over PS2 games.
Yeah.
True.
I'd happily, but
yeah. Well, let's check out another well, okay, I guess it's the next generation. Sorry, the Nintendo Wii.
What a piece of shit!
Oh, here it goes.
What an absolute fucking piece of shit this console is. Gimmicky, plasticky. The motion controls occasionally just fly off the screen for no reason, and everybody's always like, "You've got the sensor bar set wrong." No, every single time at every house that I've ever played it in, the sensor bar just occasionally just goes and it just goes off the screen for no reason. Even though there's a lot of games that use it. Like in very intense ways, like that WarioWare game where you have to pretend you're using a katana. You're doing all this shit, and I'm making a masturbation joke at the camera, by the way, here for those of you who are listening. Piece of shit console, gimmicky crap, and it sold like gangbusters, and Nintendo made tons of money from it. But I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Do you know what I find interesting about the Wii? It sold really well. Everyone had one, and they played it for about 2 weeks, and then they never touched it again.
It was a gimmick. It was a toy.
No,
for Philistines, troglodytes, imbeciles, morons.
Oh, wait, not for real gamers.
Oh God, Jesus, man, I love that console, bro.
This is my favorite console.
Oh, I went to the one store in Alaska that wasn't closed by a blizzard, and then I talked to my pal Tommy from the bar, and he was like, "There's one Wii," and then we found it in a ditch.
This was my military era. I was living in the real world when this came out. I was in the military, and it was really fun, and we got drunk a lot. And I had people come over, and we played Wii games. And it was
you got drunk because you would need to have
to get drunk to enjoy the console. That's
right.
I'm not trying to argue for it being better rated, but Jesus, man, you like insulted my entire bloodline talking about the Nintendo Wii.
It was a piece of shit for giggly baby idiots.
Oh my God.
That's my line on it.
Can I, you know, when we were talking about Nintendo, the GameCube, trying to like bring some horror in, my favorite thing about the Wii, I think it's the Wii, right? This is the one they were like, we're getting Manhunt.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was like, "Oh, watch out, Nintendo."
With the PS2, but
I know. I was thinking about it. I was like, no, I'll save this for the Wii conversation because I think it's really funny that the Wii was like, because I think they got like asked about getting some like real games, and they went
real games,
Manhunt.
Yeah,
the game that was like banned.
Use your Wiimote to strangle this guy to death. Can you make a strangling motion with the Wiimote? No, I will say, you know, just to bring, I'm not even really defending the Wii. I just want to bring a different point of view. Wii Sports was kind of a revelation for a lot of people. It's probably the game that I played the most on the Wii. Anytime I went over to anyone's house and they had a Wii, they'd be like, let's play Wii Sports. It's something that all of us can play. And I did get sick of it, particularly that infernal menu music, which I know is like a meme, but yeah. I mean,
your grandma can do Wii bowling.
I will say though, on the subject of it being for, and I quote, giggly baby idiots.
Thank you.
I did like about the Wii that I could play it with non-gamers because they understood motion controls a bit better than traditional controller controls. Like, you know, and I'm not saying that this like makes it amazing or anything, but I got to play with like my 90-year-old grandpa. I got to play Wii bowling with him because he understood it. You know, he was just like, I'm just make a bowling ball motion with it.
Oh man, yeah. Sounds like he was a giggly baby idiot to me.
Yeah, we all see a giggly baby idiots in him.
Yes, the elderly, the infirm, the inebriated, and children. That is the Wii's target market.
These are Scrooge. Damn. Are there four houses?
I'm gonna jump.
Let them rot.
I'm gonna jump into that. Like, I agree. Like, I don't think it had like the best library of games, but the games that kind of came with, like Wii Sports, WarioWare, like these are games that were iconic and people played them. And I think it did a.
What about other games? Do you have any other ones?
Yeah, Punch Out was fucking awesome.
Didn't it have
on the Wii?
Wasn't there a Zelda game?
Oh yeah, Punch Out.
Yeah, Twilight Princess was on the Wii.
Twilight Princess, the inferior version of Twilight Princess was on the Wii. Yes,
and Skyward Sword.
The inferior version of Resident Evil 4 was on the Wii.
Mario Galaxy.
I think it was when Nintendo started to go in a slightly different, healthier direction as well, like with Wii Fit, and like there was people that used that as like. I think it was an interesting console for that alone. Is that people were using it in a very different manner. It was normalizing game consoles to non-gamers, and it marketed in a very, and I think it honestly kind of carried Nintendo to go where they kind of are now, where they
with the Switch and everything.
Skyward Sword was lit too.
Like their consoles are all very Facebook feeling a little bit with their just the pure white
Candy Crush.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think it's an interesting bookmark in Nintendo's journey.
You know, on that note, I never played Skyward Sword, but as with every Zelda game, it's incredibly polarizing. You have some people that are like, it's the best Zelda, actually. And then others that are like, it's the worst one. So
it's for baby giggly idiots.
It's for giggly baby idiots, Skyward
Sword.
Baby
idiots. Just for the record, Wii has sold 101.63 million units.
Wow.
Well, everyone had one.
101 million idiots. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like my non-gamer, family friends would get a Wii because they'd be like, oh, great for guests. We can all play together and we can all understand what's going on.
I think they still make, it's something like Just Dance still gets Wii versions because they use the Wii so much in like old folks' homes to get them moving and stuff. And it is kind of, I obviously don't like this console, but I'm aware that it did a lot of things very well. When I'm putting aside my persona for a minute here, that there are many reasons why it was popular or why it was clever for Nintendo to, especially the price point was very low. So it was very easy if you weren't like a gamer to be like, give this a try, rather than being like $400 for something I might use once. I ain't doing that. You know, so there are reasons why it sold so well.
Yeah, I do think. I think low C is where I'm initially thinking.
I'm actually okay. RX is to be angrier, but low C is totally fine with me.
Like
I
under
was
the
thinking
Xbox.
higher C.
You want to do higher C?
I don't know if I.
You want to put Gary? You want to put it over the Friends console, Gary? You want to put it over the Friends console?
As a console, I just think it was quite iconic. I think it was.
It was very unique, and
sounds like Gary wants B tier, bro. Is this what's happening?
Yeah, Gary, do you want B tier?
If it went low B,
if you want.
If it went low B, I wouldn't be unhappy.
I mean, the only thing it would be leaping would be the original Xbox if it went low B. Like that's true.
That's fine. I could live with that.
You know, shockingly, now that you said that, I'm okay with it. Because
really?
I have no feelings for the Xbox, which I would say is worse than me occasionally having one or two Wii games I like and then a lot that I hate.
There we go. Okay, so low B.
Oh, the Wii makes me feel.
Low B.
I think WarioWare and Wii Sports had a bigger impact than like just the Xbox.
Wow.
The only impactful game.
This is the true
Xbox,
friendship console.
the only impactful game was the original Halo, and other Halos did it better. Halo was just an idea.
Halo 3's better.
Actual good game. By far. Halo 2 better. Yeah. Every Halo.
Right.
Halo Tactics, whatever, RTS is better than the original Halo if you look at the actual core
Can we
game.
put the Wii U in C?
OST.
If we put the Wii in B?
Sorry?
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that initially.
The Wii U, because I think the Wii U is like very uninspired, and it's
Wii U's piece of shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, piece of shit's a little bit of an escalation.
Harsh. Okay, we'll talk about the Wii U next.
I think I liked uninspiring more than piece of shit, Gary.
Yeah. I just want to say real quick about the Wii.
Giggly fucking idiots.
Yeah, I love how I said that. I didn't get criticized, but Gary said one thing about the Wii U, and it's just like, all right, Gary Bun, shut up.
We criticized it. We just did it in a sarcastic way.
I yelled at you a lot.
You just were like my childhood.
It wasn't my childhood. I was in my fucking mid-20s, dude. I was in the military. I was fighting in wars,
My extended childhood.
I wasn't childhood. I was...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I just want to say real quick about the Wii. You know, speaking of giggly baby idiot games, Link's crossbow training, I was prepared to hate because I was just like, this is what we get. Because at the time, I think it was before Skyward Sword, and I was just like, this is what you're giving us, this shit. But then they had the little crossbow plastic thing that makes you feel like you're actually holding a crossbow, and actually the game had like quite an extensive like expansive levels and stuff and things that you could do, like little secrets that you could find. And I actually had a pretty good time with it.
I don't want to talk about it.
You want to talk about Link's crossbow training?
I don't want to say something to you, John, that I will regret.
I mean, I don't know. I was pretty good at the game, so maybe that's why I liked it. But
we saying you were bad at the game, Sinner.
No, I didn't say that. I just said I was pretty good at the game. Let's talk about the Wii U.
Bit like saying you're good at children's blocks. That's right, the square hole. Very good.
Yeah.
What happened to you? What you've changed since you came to the US?
Who hurt me? The Wii.
What happened to you, dude?
Did someone punch you in the face while you were playing the Wii, or what?
It's gotta be It's gotta be the food. I saw all this shit.
The Wii punched me in the face with its absolute disgusting stink of cheap plastic.
It was cheaply made.
The Wiimotes were crappy, honestly. Like, yeah.
Really easy to
Do you remember when they sold Wii Motion Plus and they were like, now they're better at the motion controls?
You know what? Yeah, it can't go in B. Put it at the top of C.
Thank you.
Oh, really?
C.
What have we
done?
done?
Wii Plus, like the controller was wank, wasn't it? They were cheap shit.
They were great controllers. No.
And
I won't fight.
You know what? To argue,
top of C.
To join cinema, the baby giggly fucking idiots. The amount of people that couldn't figure out they had to strap that thing around their fucking wrist and kept throwing it into their tellies. Fucking
I thought you'd like that, Gary.
It was hilarious to me.
Because it brought pain and suffering to other people that weren't you.
But they were idiots.
Also,
right?
Who wants to use a console where you're like, okay, what button do I press? Oh, you press the 1 button. You press the 2 button.
Yeah, the 1 and 2 button were kind of dumb.
You know, rubbish controller.
Nintendo fanboys, we had it, and then we caught astray. Now it's in C. Right.
Yeah.
C.
It's
still above the Xbox though. So
now we talk about the Wii U.
Piece of shit.
No, Wii U is great.
It's like shitting on the floor and then sitting on the shit and dragging it across the floor with your asshole.
The Wii U was it's the Wii again, but no one bought it.
The only people who seemed to like the Wii U were people who were like, I can't use the main screen because of my kids, so I have the little screen that I can put the game on, which I will give it credit for. It was kind of like the step that they had to take before the Switch.
Yes.
The Switch does it well, and I actually really like the Switch, but I'll talk about that later.
No, the Switch is like the improved version of the Wii U in a lot of ways. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it was like an awkward middle step that they had to take.
It's like in Pokemon. You know, you've got the starter, the Wii, and then you've got the Switch, which is the final form, but there's this awkward middle Pokemon.
This is the Metapod of
Nintendo
consoles.
Metapod.
Yeah, the Metapod.
Yeah. It needs to become Butterfree.
It sold 13.56 million, which is below the GameCube, and the GameCube famously underperformed at 21.74 million. It sold less than the Xbox, N64, Genesis, like all sorts.
And I think that's a sign because people bought the Wii, but they didn't play it about 2 weeks after owning it. Like, it just became a dust collector. So I think when the Wii U came out, people were like, I've got a Wii. Why would I buy this?
Yeah, and a lot of casuals probably didn't even realize. They're like, well, there's a new Wii? Because they can't tell the difference.
It's a terrible brand name, I think, the Wii U. Like,
well, and was Wii U... Was Wii U backwards compatible with the Wii or not? I can't remember. Because I remember the Wii could play GameCube games, and it had ports where you could plug in GameCube controllers, which I thought was pretty cool. But I don't know if the Wii U had backwards compatibility. Did it?
It did. It did. Because you could use the same accessories, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could use your Wiimotes and stuff. Yeah, I think it was. But that was also, like, you're not really taking much of a step forward because it's basically still kind of like Wii games coming out for it again. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was another problem. Is like
people were playing WarioWare on it.
It kind of felt like Wii 1.5.
Yeah.
It was quite expensive, wasn't it? Like the Wii U was more expensive.
Yes.
It might have been, yeah. I think my biggest criticism with the Wii U from like a 2024 perspective is like almost all of the good Wii U games you could play on Switch now. Like I think Mario Kart 8 originally came out for Wii U, which is like a famously successful Mario Kart. They haven't made another one since, frankly. But you can play that on Switch. Most people just play that on Switch. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, as it were, I believe. I think Breath of the Wild, did that originally come out for Wii U? I know there's a Wii U version. Or I think there is at least. But of course, people play that on Switch now, right? So it's like a lot of the games that came out for Wii U, there's like Switch versions that people play instead. So from like a modern perspective, there's not much reason to like have a Wii U, really, because you can just have a Switch instead, and you get pretty much everything except for, I mean, there's a couple like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was a pretty good game, and I don't know if that's available on Switch yet, but at this point, it's like a matter of time, right?
I'm pretty sure. In fact, Kyle might have it behind me, but yeah. Where are we gonna? What are we gonna do with Wii U?
I would say D.
C. D.
D for Wii U and C for Wii.
Say again.
I'll do D for Wii U and C for the Wii.
Yeah.
Or are we putting the Wii in B because Doug played it with friends?
No. I put Nintendo Wii at the top of C.
Okay.
So the Wii.
I already updated the group chat one.
Yeah.
To put it in C, even though I didn't like it. I'm not fighting with you guys. We don't have enough time, so it's fine. bullying me into Wii into the C. I'm not gonna die for it.
Okay. So Wii,
I mean,
Wii U
you're
top of D?
25%.
I think in
Doug,
D, yeah.
So I do want to.
Wii U top of D? Is that what we're doing?
Top of D, yeah.
Top of D. Okay.
What's it head of in D?
The Sega Master System.
Oh right.
Sega Master System. If we're gonna be real about it, it should be an F tier. Like, come on. I would have. I've had more experiences with Xbox One that felt something than Sega Master System.
Can we do the Wii U in F tier?
No.
Well, I've been really good, and I deserve a present, and that.
I agree. So no, you deserve a present.
I've been really well behaved, and I've only screamed at you all.
Can we? Okay. 5 times. I refuse to put it below the Xbox One, though. I'll put it at top of F.
Okay.
Ahead of Xbox One.
Thank you.
Okay. Because that's taking the piss at that point. But F tier, fine.
If I knew you guys were going to be so hard on Nintendo, I would have fought harder for S tier and 64. Anyways, moving on.
But we're not hard on Nintendo. We love the GameCube. We love the N64. I love the Switch.
We're from now on. It's gonna be very positive Nintendo coverage. Actually,
You think that now?
yeah, I do.
Like all the other ones, I really
think
like.
I think you guys slept on the Wii. I think, well, it makes sense that I feel like athletic people probably enjoyed the Wii because we had to move.
Oh, please! You weren't like that in front of a screen. You're hardly running laps.
Saying,
I do remember when you started to learn that when you play tennis, you didn't have to like do that. You could just go.
Yeah. Yeah. Although it is more immersive to role play.
But if you want to balance the score out, if Doug loves it, it is just as valid as me really hating it. It should somewhat even it.
I'm not gonna fight it.
I'm just saying.
C tier.
I have my subjective opinion about it.
All right, I would have battled if we tried to go lower than C. But C is a pass. It's an average score. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
You can get through university.
Let's check out another Nintendo console, the Game Boy Advance.
I don't think I would put it above the DS in my head, but I think it had some real banger titles, and it continued the success of the Game Boy, which might have been quite difficult to do so. Like, how do we create the next step? And they managed it well. They had great games like Golden Sun, Advance Wars.
Golden Sun, yeah.
There's a really good Spyro game on it.
Yeah.
I remember what it was called.
Oh, I forgot that they had a Spyro game for like a Nintendo console. That's crazy. I mean, like, now they've got the Reignited trilogy on like every console, right? But
the Reignited trilogy.
Back then, like Spyro was very much like a Sony property, right?
It was one of Sony's like one of their icons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very interesting that they got a Nintendo release. So I had a Game Boy Advance, and I think at the time, because this is pre PSP, this is like, I think this was the first time that I had a handheld console that I was like, wow, now this is pod racing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because before that, it was like the Game Boy was nothing special. It was like technologically weaker than like the NES, pretty much. Like it was really ugly and stuff. And the Game Boy Color, they changed up a little bit, but the Game Boy Advance was the first time that I played games handheld that I was just like, ooh, this looks and sounds really nice. Like they got the tech up there finally. And like you said, Sino, Golden Sun and Golden Sun 2, like best all time in the conversation JRPGs, like top 20, I would say. And those were on the Game Boy Advance.
I just realized that like with all the Game Boys and DS and stuff I've always owned, they've always been Pokemon consoles for me. But the Game Boy Advance I had other games for.
Yes.
Which I think is interesting. Like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I will say it kind of still had that slight toy-ish vibe about it, but it did that excellently. And as a child, I really enjoyed the fact that it brought a lot of like Super Mario Bros. Games came out on the Game Boy Advance, so that was like my first chance to play them, and it felt like a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I don't feel like I'm losing anything, and like the changes that they made to make it work on the Game Boy Advance felt right without it being too different. So I think that really helped me learn more about the history of Nintendo when I was young, because Super Mario World came out the year I was born, so I wasn't playing it immediately.
Right.
But it just helped. And great games, really good game library.
I will say this about the Game Boy Advance, though. A lot of the games for it were kind of just like handheld ports of home console games. Like to add on to your point, like for example, I really liked playing Mario Kart Super Circuit on the Game Boy Advance, but that's kind of just the SNES Mario Kart just on Game Boy Advance with like some tweaks, but they did that a lot. They like you said, they put Super Mario World on the Game Boy Advance, but they slightly changed it. But a lot of their games were basically just handheld ports of games that already existed. So I think when it comes to like original exclusive Game Boy Advance games, I struggle to think of more than a few titles that were really good.
Yeah, or even things like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, which is very much its own thing, but it's building off of what Tactics did. I think that's why I couldn't say the GBA is the GOAT, because it's too derivative to be the greatest of all time, but I have a lot of fondness for it, so I would be like high B, low A for me.
That's where I want to put it.
I put it high B. I put it above the Game Boy.
I put it over the Game Boy too. And in addition, like once I got my Game Boy Advance, I didn't go back to the Game Boy because I could just play. It had backwards compatibility, and I could just play all my Game Boy stuff on Game Boy Advance, which was great.
I remember playing Pokemon Gold on it.
Yeah, same.
Oh, yeah. That was really cool, actually.
Yeah, so I could literally just move on to a superior console, like a technologically superior console, and that was fun. So yeah, I'll do high B above Game Boy. That sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of Nintendo consoles. Let's move back to Sony. Let's do the Sony PSP. Speaking of handhelds.
Okay.
Now, this is the PlayStation Portable, just to set things up, and this was Sony's first handheld out of two, and by far the most successful.
Yeah. So I love the PSP. I have obviously a special place in my heart because of the time in my life it came out in. Like I was, because again, you guys mentioned like the Game Boy, the GBA still felt kind of like a kid's console, but like the PSP was like, it was a disc-based handheld for the first time, and it was like they had some like real bangers. Like it could like really do more technologically than we'd ever seen in a handheld before at that point. It felt like an adult's handheld gaming.
It had like a Metal Gear Solid game and stuff on it, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had like proper...
And so that was for me. That's one of the reasons why.
It'll
always be to me. Like it had like God of War, GTA came out on it, Metal Gear Solid came out on it, Little Big Planet. Like there's this.
Was Little Big Planet on it?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Didn't know
I mean,
that.
and again, like these were all games that like adult games. You know, games that we played at home on our console. And so for me, as I was in the military, I was deployed. I wanted to have someone with me to like play games with. It was really easy. It was like the first time I felt like I was getting like an at-home gaming experience, like in a handheld. So I have a very strong fondness for the Sony PSP.
I did not have a PSP in its banger era. I have one now, but I have like maybe a couple games for it. I think they're digital. So I don't really have much experience with the PSP. So honestly, Doug, I'll let you lead the way on where to tier this.
Yeah, I didn't own one.
I think only because, man, I probably put it somewhere because we're gonna talk about another Sony handheld later that I'll go to bat for a lot more. But
me too.
Yeah, but with the PSP, I'd probably put it somewhere in the low A, high B category. Like it's really solid, strong.
Yeah.
But
so would you think like above Game Boy Advance?
Yeah, I would put it above Game Boy.
Because I would say that too. It felt like, again, I didn't play it, but it feels like the library was just a lot more extensive with the PSP.
Yeah. But again, it wasn't with the GBA. There's a lot of like remakes, and like you said, there was a lot of it borrowed from other consoles, like stay-at-home or take-home console. It ported a lot of stuff, whereas PSP like did a lot of like original stuff. They still on their own feet. So.
The PSP was like a step too far for me in terms of like money when I was growing up. Like I'd already had my parents buy me like a Game Boy Advance. So it wasn't so much the PSP did anything wrong. It was just like I already had spent my allowance basically. So a friend of mine had the PSP and I always thought it was really cool. I was like, oh, I kind of want this as well. But I was like, I've already got a Game Boy Advance, so I shouldn't ask my parents for this as well,
Yeah. I would say like the Game Boy Advance felt like you were an older child, whereas like the PSP was like a teenager console.
Yeah. Well, like the PSP had a charger, right? It didn't run on batteries. Whereas the Game Boy Advance was still running on AA batteries. So it did kind of still feel like a toy compared to this is a device,
Bit more kind of like a sophisticated feel to it with the UMDs. You could like even watch movies and stuff on.
You could buy movies,
what?
Yeah, so I'm willing to defer to you guys when it comes to PSP because I always just thought it looked really cool, but I don't have like a ton of like I played Metal Gear Acid for a bit and I'm like, a Metal Gear card game? Oh, this is really fun, but I didn't have a lot of time.
I defer as well, but I would push for low A with that with the movie thing. I think that's like
Yeah, honestly, like it as like a multimedia console is pretty important, especially handheld. I think low A under GameCube. What do you think?
Either under or right above GameCube. I'd be okay with going above GameCube. I wouldn't be okay with going over Genesis.
Okay.
And again, I put like thousands.
I could put it over GameCube. I'm fine with that. You guys okay with that?
Yeah, fine by me.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, you know what? Let's keep the handheld streak going. Let's talk about the Nintendo DS.
I love this console a lot because I think it wasn't always well used, but I think that the quote-unquote gimmicks that it had some pretty cool uses. I like being able to touch the thing, and I think sometimes having the two screens was used well in games. Sometimes it was kind of just like you can see your map whenever you want in Resident Evil Deadly Silence, which is actually quite useful because it makes it faster, but it wasn't always like groundbreaking, so to speak. They had an Advance Wars game where they tried to make it so there was like a second battle going on at the top. I thought that was a little over the top, but I think one of the reasons why I love the DS so much is it had a lot of adventure games on it, and those games for instance, like 999, 9 hours, 9 people, 9 doors.
The first Zero Escape game, an amazing game, by the way.
I have to admit, I bought quite a few DS games, but my family had a lot of really bad money problems at that point, and I ended up using a flash cart. And as a result, I was able to get access to a lot of weird adventure games that were just not in game stores around me. But through playing that, I was like, oh, I really like these games that are like, you're playing as an FBI agent that can see like the final hours before somebody dies, and you have to work out the crime. And it's just like games that don't feel like a traditional game really came to life for me on the DS, especially 999, of course, as well. I'm like, oh, it's like a murder game. What is this? This is so cool.
Well, and to add to the point of having the 2 screens, 999 had like possibly the best use of the double screen that I've ever seen towards the end of it. There's a puzzle towards the end of the game, a very significant puzzle, that requires you to turn the DS upside down and look at the second screen upside down, right?
It's like, spoilers, by the way, for those of you who are playing it, but it's supposed to be like the person in the past is one side. You have to look at it from their perspective, and the person in the future who's using the same device as you is like the normal side, and you have to like turn it upside down to kind of work out the solution. It was a very clever way of using the hardware to tell the story.
Yeah,
which is very elegant.
Interesting.
It wasn't just for the puzzle; it was like a story realization that could happen in real time as you're physically turning the console.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Of course, I played, to be fair, I played the game on PC where you had no such moment, but I was told about it, and it sounds really cool.
Yeah, the PC version is just like, work out the word. It's this word. You've done it.
Gary, I'm going to go on record again. I know that you play the Danganronpa games, and I think you should play at least the first Zero Escape game, because it's on PC.
I think so. I think you've recommended to me a couple of times to play it as well.
They're sold as the known area game, so you get all 3.
Yeah. I think I might already have bought them. Yeah, my thoughts on the DS...
They're up there with Danganronpa for me, so...
So my thoughts on the DS, for me it was a Pokemon console.
Okay.
But I love the stylus. I think it's a very... You felt a little sophisticated with a DS. I don't know, you just felt
you get to flip it open and it makes that noise. And
it does have
I'm going on PictoChat.
It does have a nice click.
I've drawn a dick.
So like I appreciated that about it, and I also quite liked that this was when Nintendo had kind of like continued down the direction of the Wii Fit and stuff like that, where they were doing the brain training, and there was like this angle of like, this is a console that can help your brain. You can do brain training, elderly relatives. It's a good console for them. I thought it was quite a healthy direction to take gaming and say that there's more benefits than just shooting zombies. You can also do things that are good for your brain. And I think it did kind of change the attitude that people had towards gaming as a whole a little bit, where it became more of a normal thing to do. And I think that
more
was
holistic
really healthy
for your life than just it's a diversion when you should be doing adult chores.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it was something that could be a benefit to your life in a healthy way, and I really liked that about the DS, that it moved that.
Well, I didn't play it a ton, but I did play it, and one of the huge thumbs ups for me is that it was the first time that I was able to play Chrono Trigger remastered.
Ooh.
They released Chrono Trigger, and so I could play it on and like that was since I was a child playing on Super Nintendo. It was also one of my favorite all time games. So that was a huge good stuff there. I was going through the list. Like I said, I didn't play a ton of it, but I was going through the list of games, and it sounds like there was like a tremendous amount of original games for the DS as well. Like they just did a lot of it's like Castlevania games and like Zelda. Yeah, just
is the DS the second?
Animal Crossing came out on the DS.
I never played the Castlevania games, but I've heard from Castlevania fans that they slap the ones from the DS.
They're supposed to be like some of the most iconic games. Yeah, they're like the DS games were like what brought Castlevania back into the mainstream.
Yeah.
Is the DS the second best-selling console, or is the Switch overtaking it? Okay.
The Switch hasn't overtaken it yet, but it's very close.
Yeah. Wow.
And like Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass is a 90 Metascore of all-time must-play games.
Right.
Mario and Luigi Bowser Inside Story. These are all
the way I got Phoenix Wright on the DS.
Phoenix Wright, yeah.
Trauma Center, which is
fucking hard. Pokemon already. Animal Crossing came to the fucking DS.
True.
Yeah. So
no, did you ever play Golden Sun Dark Dawn for the DS?
I did. I couldn't complete it though. I wish I did, but it's just the whole time I'm like, it's not quite as good is what I felt.
Because I have a hard copy of it and I've never played it, and every now and then I'm just like, because I'm like, I want to replay the first two, but you know, it's like I have to set aside like 200 hours at that point.
Yeah.
So I just haven't done it. I was curious if you had any thoughts.
Well, the first two have recently come out for the Nintendo Switch Online, which has all the Mario Party shit and stuff. So I'm already like, I know I'm gonna start playing it pretty soon, and that'll be 80 hours will go by, and I'll be like on a plane somewhere, like, what the fuck? It's just because I was playing Go.
Where am I? I flew around the world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go out on a whim, and I am going to suggest that the DS goes behind the PlayStation in S tier.
An S tier.
An S tier.
I think it was a very big deal. I think the DS had a huge impact. I
love it, and I would agree with you. But if you're more lukewarm on it, Doug, maybe like high A.
Yeah,
maybe yeah.
What I'm gonna say is, are we gonna sit here now at this period of time in the tier list and say this is the gold standard bearer for handheld gaming? Because that's what you're saying. I mean, when you put it in the S tier, you're basically saying there's no other handheld console.
For me, it kind of is. Like the only thing that comes close, like, it's just 3DS, but that's just the upgraded version.
Yeah,
where it's the same shit.
I do kind of want to bring that up. Do we want to grade the 3DS separately? Because I
don't think so.
No,
a separate console.
I just put it as one.
No, but here's the thing: they have backwards compatibility, and then does anyone ever in the history of gaming give a shit about the 3D?
No.
That's my thing about it. Is they added a gimmick that didn't really add anything.
No, it's terrible. I turned it off.
It actually
Everybody did. Everybody turned that little thing down.
Everybody turned it off at me because like I had on for a while, and I was like, this is kind of giving me like some weird motion sickness. I'm turning it off. It's awful.
It's just straining my eyes.
So I think the 3DS kind of gets lumped in with the DS, right?
Okay, so because I wanted to ask if we're grading these together, because like it's kind of a weird thing where they're so similar, but the game libraries are very different. Because like 3DS
didn't they have backwards compatibility though?
3DS did,
3DS did with DS, but you couldn't play 3DS.
I'd be willing to put DS either high A or low S, and then 3DS in like B, just because it didn't add enough.
I'd be happy with that. Yeah, I didn't like the 3DS as much.
Okay.
Or we could just put them together.
Oh yeah, whichever. Like,
that's fine.
I don't mind either way. Stick them in A.
Just kind of think of them as the same thing. Put them in A collectively. Or
yeah, I kind of wonder if they should be put close by, because they're just it is a weird situation, because like because like I think we combined Game Boy Color together with Game Boy earlier when we rated it, and those are really similar.
That's because they came out very like. I don't know, the games were the same.
They were just very similar. Yeah,
whereas
exactly.
I think the DS had a big impact, whereas I don't think the 3DS. I think that was just like
my approach to the tier list is kind of like every entry is like, why should I bother spending money on you or time on you? And I feel like the 3DS doesn't make that case as hard as the DS. But I'm
not going to fight for the 3DS too much. I just think it does have its own distinct library and stuff. But
let's give it the props for that. No, let's give it the props for that. I'll put it in A together or S?
Yeah, I think A together.
Okay,
I like A.
So in the A, we've got the Dreamcast, the N64, the Genesis, the PSP, and the GameCube. So where would we like to put the DS?
So we got top of A is 64, and then Dreamcast and Genesis, top 3, right?
Dreamcast is number 1, then 64, then Genesis. Yeah.
Oh, we put the Dreamcast over the 64.
As an additional note, being able to play multiplayer games on it with Wi-Fi, huge. Yeah. No more fucking around the cables.
Oh yeah, no more. For Pokemon games and stuff.
Here we are.
No more link cable. Was always awkward.
Maybe just below the N64.
Yeah.
Where do you say behind, or
just below it?
Just below it, yeah.
Just below. I like below it, yeah.
I did too. Yeah, and then 3DS. Want to put it a little bit lower than that, or
maybe just directly under the DS. Like they're kind of like
I thought we were kind of gluing them together.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's that.
So DS,
okay, that sounds good.
3DS. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saving all my handheld energy for another handheld console, which we'll talk about now. The PlayStation Vita.
I have like nothing to say about this, so
take
the
John, I'm going to let you take point because I took point on PSP, but I will say that I'm almost surely going to echo basically everything John says and say like, I was ridiculous about the PSP. It was like my favorite console ever when I had it, and then I thought the Vita was like even better. And so, go ahead, John, take it away.
So the Vita is a strange tale because it kind of gets memed on a lot for being a failure because it did not sell well at all, which is unfortunate. I think it's a case of PlayStation just did not support this thing. There is not a very strong game library at all, to say the least, for the PlayStation Vita. However, since this is a console tier list, I am going to fight for us putting it in a higher than C tier, you know, depending on how things go. Because as a console, this is an incredibly powerful handheld console. If you play games on the PS Vita, I mean, it is... the first time I played a game on the PS Vita, it was Gravity Rush. Which, by the way, one of the best games on the Vita, if not the best. And they liked it so much they actually ported it to, you know, regular PlayStation consoles and stuff later. But that game, especially on Vita, when you got like the motion control aspect of it, is a phenomenal experience. You're just like, how come nobody is talking about this shit? I remember thinking about that as I was playing it, because like PlayStation Vita was just out of the dialogue in gaming. I feel like people just weren't talking about it, and it's a shame because it is a really powerful console. It's got like a unique like touchpad on the back that you could use to as an additional control, and it just made the handheld console experience much more immersive. Everything was just really tight, like it was really well made. It's none of that cheap plastic shit. Like this is a very well-made console, and it was once again like a multimedia experience, like the PSP. You know, you can just play games on it. You could get on the internet. You could watch videos. You could do all sorts of stuff with it. And yeah, I mean, it unfortunately kind of conflicted with smartphones around this era, which I don't think they intended. But I think just hardware-wise, it's very impressive. And the games aren't that bad. Like I said, Gravity Rush is great. Persona 4 Golden came out on this thing.
They had full HD remakes of the Metal Gear Solid games. They had online. You could play like Mortal Kombat online. You could play fucking... It's insane, dude.
Was it like a marketing issue with the game, with the console then?
Yeah, it just was. It was just undersold. It was just
how I feel towards
it was
Vita
not
is
supported.
how people probably felt towards the Wii U, where I'm like, I don't really know the difference between the PS Vita and the PSP.
Yeah.
It wasn't clear enough to me.
The PS Vita is like high definition. It is like a modern handheld gaming console.
It was the Switch before the Switch came out. Like, it was like
quite literally.
Again, I would consider the PS Vita compared to the Switch is like the Dreamcast compared to like the PlayStation 2 next gen. Like they had all these ideas that like people weren't ready for them yet, and then like Switch did it, and then it was like, oh, now we're ready.
How long were games being developed for it? Like what was its life span?
It was pretty.
There are
low.
12 games right now that still have their online servers up for the Vita. People still play this.
But how long did they make games for it that like?
Yeah.
You know, were you a year after you bought one? Would you buy new games?
It came out in 2011, and the last game for it was discontinued in 2019.
No, but yeah, like you know, when it was a fresh console, because like they still make games for all sorts of shit. When was it like its height kind of peter out of like new exciting titles for it?
I think it was pretty quick. I have to double check, but Sony really did. They just kind of backed off of this thing really fast. Like they were playing hot potato. They did. That is what they did. Because you know how Resistance we've talked about many times. It's just like, oh, it was a good game, but it just didn't get the support. Yeah. That's the Vita's story, I think.
Yeah.
So where would you like to put it?
So I would argue high B above the Game Boy Advance.
I would even go further and say like it could be considered A tier.
I'm going to say not S.
I think the only reason we would knock it out of A tier is because people didn't get it. It's not because it wasn't great. I mean, it literally has better specs than the launch Switch.
Yes, I wanted to say that, but I wasn't sure if that was true or not. But like,
true, yep.
If you played a Vita, technologically it's an incredible experience. Like and yeah, it does not shock me that it's more powerful than the Switch, and it predates it.
Where did we put the PSP?
PSP got A tier.
Yeah, low A, above the GameCube, below the Sega Genesis.
Because like I would say somewhere above that, just because of how impassioned you both are about it. Like it clearly had an impact. I agree with Sino though. I don't want to see it in S because I think like
I'm not going to argue for S.
No.
S should be like undeniable.
I think
Yes,
anyone.
S should be
Agreed.
S is reserved.
And that's why I think I would stick it right behind the DS, 3DS, only because the game library was lacking, which again is the console's fault, but the library was a little light.
Fair. I think the game library is literally the only weakness, I would say, because everything else, like hardware wise, it's like perfect.
Yeah, it felt good. The online was really good and responsive. Like I never got frustrated by it. Like it was, and then again, like the remakes were like, it was like, again, it's like playing your home consoles. And I said that about the PSP, and then Vita like even did it better.
Yeah,
like they were like
it's PSP Plus.
Yeah.
So no, when you come visit, I'll try to get mine like charged up and stuff, and see what you think of it. I'd like to see you.
Oh my gosh.
Because I mean,
I'm gonna come back to the podcast and be like, Esther!
I'll dig mine out and we can play Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. No, it's really impressive. So I'm happy. I'm happy now that we got that. And my favorite console. Just kidding. It's not my favorite, but that's still coming up.
Should we do that now?
Would you like to?
Yeah, because we are. It's getting maybe around that point where we should.
We've got like 7 more consoles to go.
How? What's left?
There's the Xbox 360 to go through. We've got like a bunch of PlayStations to go through. We've got God's favorite console to go through.
I mean, we could save it for next time if you'd like.
Ooh, especially if your favorite hasn't been yet.
Another breadcrumb. People are going to be so mad and excited at the same time.
I mean, honestly, the Xbox 360 is a huge discussion to have as well. Like, I don't want to cram it in.
The 360 is going to be huge. We haven't talked about the Switch yet. We haven't talked about the PS3 or the PS4 or the Super Nintendo.
Oh my God, we have to.
No, we need next time.
Next time.
The more I think about the PS3 and the Xbox 360, I have a lot to say.
Yeah, same. Agreed.
Let's save it for next time then, along with Doug's Pro Country.
Yeah.
Doug's Pro Country.
And honestly, next time I'd like to talk about Hunt, which we didn't really have time to do this week. Yeah. And I've played a bunch of games that have just come out, which I'd love to talk about a little bit as well. Haven't had time.
I'm gonna play the casting of Frank Stone. I know you guys probably won't play it, but I'm gonna play it so we can talk about that.
I'm gonna play it.
Oh, you're gonna play
that?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I might play
Looks
it.
like Until Dawn. I'll just play it.
We'll see if Behavior sends me a code or not.
John, are you only playing it if you get a code as well?
I'll play it if I get a code. If I don't,
that's me. That's how I feel. Because I hated The Devil in Me.
Yeah.
I thought I get rubbish.
We'll talk about it. I want to hear about that next week.
Okay.
Everything
because I could talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds good. We'll save all that discussion for next time.
What is John's favorite console? If you're watching,
I think it's.
Leave a comment.
I think I know what it is.
I think I do too, but I want to see what the comments think.
I think it's PS5.
I think if you watched my reaction video to Dexero's top 100 games, you probably know what it is.
Yeah.
I didn't exactly hide it.
Let's reward the true fans then.
Yeah.
For watching John's other content.
That's right. All right, everybody. Well, thanks you all for checking out season 53. Our best season yet?
I think it's a banger, isn't it?
Can you? I'm having a formal request now that this episode be called Giggly Baby Idiots.
Oh, I was gonna call it Console Tier List Part 2, but
okay, actually that makes a lot more sense.
But
okay,
that could be the subtitle.
That's a subtitle.
Giggly Baby Idiots.
Yes, that's at least the name of a fucking chapter, man. Like,
yeah, that would mean a lot.
Giggly Baby Idiots, the Sinnoh rant. I'll have that be a timestamp.
That's what that chapter will be called.
Yep. Yes.
I like it.
All right. Well, on behalf of me and Gary the Hot Cross and Doug Running Man and Sinnoh Beats, whoop whoop. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Hugs and kisses.
Bye. Hugs and kisses. Bye, everybody. Whoop whoop.
Bye. Bye. Bye.